Okay, OBS was being a dumb. Everything looked green on my end, but OBS decided, nope. Okay, we got sound in this. All right, campaign, saved. This is why we save. Your campaign is always going to pop up at 1x speed. I did also miss another quite important step. And that is something that adds situational awareness. So we're going to add additional steer point on line 1. Additional steer point on line 1. Additional steer point on line 1. And we're going to do that over and over again. We're going to trace roughly the front line. These steer point lines will appear on our HSD, which lets us know, hey, are we above enemy or friendly territory? That's quite important. Then we will join the deed group again. We are going to double check our loadout. Our loadout is good. We're going to check our data cartridge. We're going to check that our steer points are still here. Yep, steer points are still in. EWS looks good. Load our comm plan, IFF plan, save. I apologize, everyone, for that freaking sudden turn off. I don't know what went wrong. I did just rebuild this PC, so there could be some problem with it. I haven't really done a ton of load testing on it. Falcon BMS, it shouldn't really be all that intense. We're going to do a ramp start. We'll run through the startup again because I did get distracted the last time and didn't go through everything. What stream software am I using? OBS. I've never had OBS issues before. So there's a first time for everything. And I forgot to start RTT client. You want to be in the Air National Guard? Don't we all? And I forgot another important thing in my hurriness. I forgot to turn on my track IR. And I forgot RTT client. So the MFDs that you're seeing me display on stream, those are through RTT Client, a program that ships with Falcon BMS, which is very lovely. I actually use it because I've got some MFDs that are on a different monitor. It's extremely useful. Not Streamlabs OBS, just actual OBS. Okay, so now we're in game. We forgot to launch our track IR. What do? Well, there is a keybind for that. You hit Alt plus C, release them, then hit T, and it reloads your track IR. And that is a godsend in this game. So we're going to close our canopy again. Then we're going to hit Alt C, release, P, and there's a third one of these keybinds I know, which is Alt C and then R. Do not hit that one. It is a random failure. It will ruin your flight. It'll cause very much confusion. So we're going to arm our seat. Main power on. Probe heat on. Fuel source normal. IFF normal. Lights on. Lights to normal. Comms to upper front console. Engine to start 2. Air source normal. Engine anti-ice auto, oxygen on. I don't know what was going on with that, because the only thing I can think of that caused the crash that jumps out at me is high CPU temps, but our CPU is at 62C right now, which is typically what it hangs around at, even when I was doing Cyberpunk benchmarks. And watch this. 20%. Hit the banana. Yeah, 62 is fine. I mean, my CPU idles at like 50 to 60, but it's a Ryzen and it runs hot, and I've got overclocking, the factory overclocking enabled. So it just does that. You know, it didn't even blue screen, it just hard shut off. All right, avionics power up everything. Left hard point, right hard point, fire control radar altimeter, instrument panel lights, FL CS bit reset, ECM into operating, which is weird because the manual says it is going to go into standby, or actually is that in standby right now? To me, that looks like it's on and off. So standby, seal the canopy, comms to both, comm 1, comm 2, missile and threat volume down, ILS on, RWR power on, these on, mode to manual, HMCS on, storage config cat 3, we are heavy, taxi lights on, parking brake on. I actually have a parking brake switch here, as well as a load storage config switch, because those are some things I use a little often. Data cartridge, load, test page, clear. HUD on, and you can hit left arrow to go back, right arrow to bring up the wind information, F4 to bring up the list page, 0, period, sequence right, and then 0, hold it steady, align OK. Why the music? Because why not? I like music. I like some good music. I have to have Sono playing when I fly, otherwise that just doesn't work. Then we can go list page, 6, INS is aligned and ready. We're all good. Air to ground, we'll power up our GBU 39s. And I used an air to ground switch, you can just use this button here. Bring this out. And then we can request a ground EPU pin is removed. Remove the chocks. Request a taxi for departure.
Good morning, Viper 5. You are number 3 for departure.
Runway 18, so we're heading down that end.
And hold short, runway 18.
Nozzle steering engaged. I'm gonna forget something absolutely important since I'm doing this on stream, because that's how it goes. Certainly feel our aircraft is quite a bit heavier than the last one was. Oh yeah, we forgot to hand off the RWR. Our radar told us check control page, so we check control page and then we ignore the error. The F-16 works a lot like every other industrial machine that I've used. It throws up an error, so you hit the error reset and hope it goes away. If it doesn't go away, then you have to actually consult a checklist. And in the F-16, that checklist is usually, can you fix it? If you cannot, consider ejecting. Or it might be like, yeah, just don't use that system, or like keep your AOA limited. We had a whole host of jets. Those bar cap aircraft are all taking off like 1 or 2 minutes in front of us. I'm gonna, as soon as we get in the air, we're gonna be figuring out how the heck this jammer works now. Because I honestly have no clue how the new jammer system really works. I've read some of the theory of it. It doesn't really inspire too much confidence in me until I have some information from flight simmers on the proper theory of the jammer use. And as far as I know, there is no flight sim that has actually had a jammer implementation quite as good as this. I think DCS does some of it, but the usability of the jammer in DCS has been questionable. we can hit cap locks, and we are going 4x speed, so it's just a time acceleration, so we can wait until these guys actually take off. They just switched to their takeoff lights. Yep, so they're going. That other flight, I messed up a bit because I should have fragged these as flights of 4 instead of flights of 2. But we'll deal with what we got.
Tower for takeoff. Switch to 9230.
Landing lights. There. Switch to tower.
Beast 5.
Ready for departure. And while we've got a second, we're going to do a sweep. Radar altimeter, we're going to turn that on. So good practice is normally, normally when you start up, your radar is in standby and you have to hit CRM. So good practice is to not turn your fire control radar on until you're taxiing, and same thing with the radar altimeter, because you don't want to start cooking the ground crew. It's a little rude. These guys take off.
Panther 2, contact departure.
That's
Viper 5,
quiet.
on tower, weighing 200 at 10.
We are Viper 5.
18, you're cleared for takeoff.
Wind is off to our right, so we're going to line up on the left. So we're going to do a wing takeoff, or an element or formation. I don't know quite what the proper title is for it. We are going to line up on the left half of the runway, or rather the downwind side of the runway is, to put it more precisely. We're going to wait for our wingman. And if you're a new pilot to Falcon BMS, you can use a utility called Weapon Delivery Planner. And that is pretty straightforward. There's some tutorials online on how to use it. It's pretty quick, pretty easy. But you load up your flight data and it'll calculate all sorts of stuff for you, like it'll put your kneeboard information down. I haven't played with that for this because I wanted to hop right into it. Another important thing it'll give you is your rotate speed, but for a heavily laden F-16, about 185 works just fine. So we're going to step on the brakes, throttle up, RPM 100 for this engine, keep her straight on. Rotate. Gear up. And off to our left on our right MFD, or on our right MFD, you'll see off to the left of our current position, we got some waypoints.
Black 1, contact departure.
We're airborne.
Viper 5, Kunasan, departure. Depart heading 075. Resume on navigation.
075. I'm gonna pull off the afterburner. We're gonna make use some of some autopilot. We're gonna hold at about this attitude hold. We're going to continue our turn. Since we are in day 1 of the war, we're going to fence in right now, so we're going to turn our lights off, master arm on, get a ground mode, weapons are powered on. Now this is one thing I'm really sad about. I couldn't find this switch. This 1, 2, 3 switch. So in mode 1, it is your avionics priority. In mode 2, it is jamming priority. Mode 3, it's always on. So if we do mode 3 and do this, it should, if it's warmed up, it'll transmit, but it's not warmed up, I don't think. And 4 here is a button that I've got bound. So, okay, there we go. We've got our button selected, and you can see that when we hit this, it's transmitting all of them. When it's this, it's only gonna put them up depending on what's locking us. And when we see this ECM light, that means we've hit our CMS aft, which is this button on our stick. Our stick in real life kind of matches it. How did I set up the avionics on the bottom of the screen? Do you mean my stream at the bottom of my stream? Because the way I did that is I used a program called RTT client. Got a 56 knot wind. That sounds like a computer error, but maybe not. Yeah, so I used the program RTT client. It's pretty simple. It's just there's a text editor you do, and there's an edit config file you got to edit in Falcon BMS to allow the use of it. So you're just telling it to actually export the textures, and then you have to input like coordinates and such to tell it, the game, where it's going to display those on your monitors. Yeah, 4.36, the winds weren't too crazy for this same campaign, but the one where you're starting out as Korean War Gone Hot, that one, the winds were insane for me when I did it. I had like an 80 knot crosswind. All right, we're gonna increment to steer point 15, which is our first target waypoint. And in Falcon BMS, unlike DCS, you see our left MFD, our radar is in ground mode. We can actually switch that back to CRM, so we can have some understanding of what the heck is going on with us, or going on around us. We're at 20,000 feet. This mission is honestly a little heavy for pilot load while trying to stream, because everything's happening fairly quick. Since we are right by that SA2, it is 40 seconds out from drop, actually. We're going to turn our autopilot on. We don't have to fly perfectly at our Q. We have to be just close because we've got SDBs. But we're on steer point 15. We're going to TMS up. I've aligned the SDBs. They're fine. They'll work. We can hit targeting pod. Our targeting pod is not online. It's not timed out. We took off too quick. But first one, bombs away. We can increment. Next one, bombs away. Next one, TMS up. 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 Bombs away. I think we're out. Yep, that's all of them. Nice smooth release for all of them. We're gonna get this warning. If we check our panel down here, stores config, so we hit that stores config switch and we're back to normal. And our mission is done. Never noticed the ready and release while in the HSD. Is that new? I did not catch what you were talking about. And we can watch with our targeting pod if we feel like it. Or I think it was shift 0. 0, shift 0, shift 0. What the heck was the key line for? Shift 7, here we go. I'm gonna put the FCR back on. Ah, oh god, why? 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 Oh, that's my head tracking being weird. Well, these things are going to fly for a bit. And thankfully, my RWR is up on a second monitor, so if anything is deciding to suddenly murder us, we're gonna catch it, and I'm gonna try to save us from dying horribly. Watching ordnance fall is more funny. More funny, how so? Level out. So if you see on the screen, funner. If you see on the screen our left MFD, there's that pink bar, pink or purple bar, depending on your decision of colors. If I roll my aircraft to the right, you'll see that turns left, and if I roll left, it turns right. That is a makeshift artificial horizon. It's extraordinarily useful in situations where you're head down in your cockpit so you can see what's going on. I don't think that's listed anywhere in the manual, at least not in the training manual. But it is quite useful, and we can use some time acceleration because these bombs are going to glide for a while. I love the SDBs. They are absolutely fantastic munitions. You can see it's definitely getting blown off course. So I'm going to hope it actually hits. Our targeting pod is not able to see target anymore. Hope it hits. Hope it hits. This wind might be a death sentence for us. Something hit something. So on terminal guidance, it's heading right in for a missile. And boom! All right. Let's land this bird. Tank, thank you for the hydrate. I have had a weird thing where I swear I dropped the bombs all right, and then they all missed. I don't know what the deal was with that. I'm going to chalk it up to pilot error. Then we're going to head back to base, which we are within 30 nautical miles of. So we're going to get off of the tactical frequency back to the approach frequency. We're going to request an unrestricted approach. I'm going to take it easy this time.
Good morning. Viper 5-1, Tunis on approach. Continuing down for straight in approach. Runway 18. Welcome back.
Straight in approach, runway 18.
2980. Viper 52, turn right heading 105. Descend to 4000. Maintain 300 knots.
Autopilot off. We're going to start our descent. Turn right to give us some more turning room to turn on to the runway once we get down to about where we want. Never had an issue with the SDBs you had with Rampage. The Rampage, I don't know what those munitions are. What are the three screens on the bottom? Oh yeah, so the leftmost screen on the bottom, that's not the chat, excluding the chat box. Leftmost is our fire control radar. So there's this little, oh my god, the cursor's inverted, oh no! I'll have to fix that at some point, but I'm gonna be really thrown off for a bit. But this is our fire control radar. We got a cursor. If there's a air target like this one, we can lock it up. And we can prepare to fire missiles at it. The right side one is our multifunction display, our HSD,
4000.
horizontal situation display. So that gives us a top-down view of the map. So if I zoom out, you'll see that there is some steer point lines, but then there is this dotted line. That dotted line is that additional steer point line that I put on, which is roughly where the front line is.
Altitude.
We've got an altitude warning, which we expect. Actually, that happened. Oh, I didn't configure my text file for that because it's at 10,000 feet, not 14,000 feet. Okay. And the middle one is our radar warning receiver.
Viper 52, turn right heading 010, hold 4,000, maintain 260 knots, runway 18.
So the RWR, that's a clone of this display. It's a radar warning receiver. I can see right now that it's missing the lines because I forgot to enable the lines on it. I'll fix that next time. Just a lot of small things I forgot that I had done to get Falcon BMS running nice for stream. Oh yeah, and we're going to fence out, make sure our jammer is off. Then we're going to turn our lights back on before landing, although lights in Falcon BMS are kind of absolutely worthless. I'm also going to set our fire control radar down to shorter range so we can spot things that are close to us a bit quicker. Going to try to hold our altitude. I think we missed our switch to the tower frequency. Best landing. Okay, they're not clearing us for landing. Oh, yes they are.
Flat 1, going to sound tower. Continuing bound
We're
for
on final. Gear down.
Viper, flat 1, execute missed approach.
What?
Clearance cancel. Vector 355. Contact approach for resequencing. Viper, flat 1, going to sound tower. Continuing bound for runway 18.
Boo! You're so lame. I wonder what was going on that made him cancel that. If we were just too close when we swapped over or what. But we'll go around. There's a war on? Yeah, so they should have let me land. Our wingman still has us freaking locked up here. Request unrestricted approach.
Good morning, Viper 51, Kunis on approach, continuing down for straight-in approach, runway 18, welcome back. QNH 2980.
They're too busy with the war on? Well, screw them. I'm more important than the war. If I fly all of my missions flawlessly, all of our ground troops fight a lot harder.
Viper 52, turn left heading 355, hold 4,000, maintain 250 knots, vectors to right base, runway 18.
And I think the best piece of advice I could probably give to new Viper pilots is have an easy bind for your autopilot and use it. Altitude hold is such an invaluable thing to have. Because just doing stuff like this, it lets you turn a lot more easily. And it lets you be heads down a lot more without smashing yourself into terrain. Okay, so
Viper 52, descend to 3000, maintain 250 knots.
when are you gonna pass me over, air traffic control? Air traffic control, are you awake?
Viper Flight 1, going to sound south. Continue inbound for runway 18.
We are on final.
Viper Flight 1, going to sound south.
Why?
Continue inbound for
Why?
runway 18. Viper Flight 1, go around. Vector 355. Contact approach for resequencing.
Viper,
Oh my god.
execute
Oh my
missed
god.
approach.
Oh my
Vector
god. I
355.
swear.
Contact approach for resequencing. Viper 52, turn right heading 090, descend to 2000, maintain 230 knots. Vectors to final,
Alright.
runway 18.
Alright. Time acceleration. Why are we not getting cleared for landing?
Viper 52, turn right to final approach course 175. Check approach speed. Viper 52, contact tower, done final. Switch to 923.
Actually, I'm just really moronic. I'm trying to land on the wrong runway. My brain is off. So they said runway 18, not 36. Yes, that's why.
Good morning, Viper 51, Gunasan approach. Continuing down for straight in approach. Runway 18, welcome back. You and H2
What is it?
980.
What is my altitude hold doing?
Viper 51, contact tower for landing. Switch
Yeah.
to 923.
Viper 52,
Press
going to
landing.
sound south. Wing 210 at 9 knots. Runway 18, clear for landing. Jet gear down. Viper Flight 1, going to sound south. Continue inbound for runway 18. Red boards on final.
No, I'm just used to landing the opposite direction for whatever reason. Plus, when you hit that start stream button, you lose at least 20 HQ, or 20 IQ. See, that's a great example. And I've hit that start stream button 3 times today, so I've lost 60 IQ. Yep, 20 HQ. Yep, exactly.
Viper,
Illustrating my point.
Switch to 273-525.
Yeah, the prevailing wind is for 1.8 right now. In my last campaign, it was for 3.6, so I got really used to landing on 3.6. Coming in a little fast. We're gonna bleed some speed off and bring this up. Be ready to report on. Well, report we're on final. So we are on final approach.
Viper Flight 1, going to sound
Gear
south.
down.
Continue inbound
Throttle
for
back up.
runway 18.
Speed brakes out. And look at this crosswind. Holy hell. This is going to be an interesting. I don't think I've ever landed in a crosswind this high. Doing some serious crabbing today. The F-16 is rated for a 12-knot crosswind. Current wind is 20 from 228, so I think that should be
Flight 1, going to sound tower. Wayne
clear for landing.
220
Gears
at
down and
9
locked.
knots. Runway 18, clear for landing. Jet gear down.
Coming in low, but that's more or less fine. There's no terrain obstruction, so it's not a problem. You're gonna come right a bit. Apply more power. And the reason why we put speed brakes out is because it keeps your engine at a higher RPM, so you spool faster. Throttle to idle. Bounce a little bit. Keep the nose up. Step on the brakes.
Caution.
Hey, T-Bone V, thank you for the follow. Love watch takeoffs and landing. Takeoff and landings are honestly some of the coolest in my opinion. Oh, we're gonna miss that turn off because I was distracted. We'll hit the last one. Going a little fast.
Flapper, flat 1, contact ground. Switch to 273-525.
I refuse because we are going to hit the brakes and end the mission. All right, so that went well. Aside from, hey, Blonde74, thank you for the follow. That went pretty well, aside from me being a complete moron at the end there. Okay, so we can see 1 miss, 7 hits. So we had 1 that released and didn't hit something, but we took out the fan song, which is the fire control radar. That's the most important part of the missile system. So we can recon this. You can see that they've got their spoon rest, but I don't care about that. And then we will take, we'll do a little bit of time acceleration until that deed mission is done landing. Hey, Davey Dave, thank you for the follow. And just to reiterate to everybody watching, this is a stream to kind of help explain more of what's going on in Falcon BMS. So if you have any questions, do not hesitate to stop me. If it is something I cannot explain in the moment on this stream, I am probably going to hit the pause button and I'll explain it for you, no problem. Okay, so here's our pre-planned threat steer point. What I like to do with these is I like to switch them to a AAA once we've taken out the installation, because there is a possibility they'll get another fan song up. So the next thing I think I want to do is there is an enemy airbase, this airbase. It is completely operational. And what we can do is we see this is Sosan Air Force Base. We can go to, not the air tasking order, the order of battle. We can go to, no, Democratic People's Republic of Korea, North Korea, radio frequencies that always confuse you. Yeah, so the tower will tell, the tower, whenever they're handing you off, will tell you a frequency. You don't have to care about that because of the comm ladder. I can explain the comm ladder in a second, but we're just going to cross-reference this. So Sosan Air Force Base, we'll go here, we'll find Sosan. QRS Sosan. There's actually nothing based out of here. So there's no point in us hitting this. So I was going to say we can do an operational counter error on it, but I guess there's no point. Next, I think maybe we want to try to take out this SA5, which in this case, I would like to use harms for, so we can go over harms. And we've got better information. This is a dynamic campaign, just to reiterate. So at the start, we kind of know roughly where these are, and you'll see that it'll be put like on the base. But as flights come in and fly out and do things, we'll learn better about the specific locations of these. Although in reality, we actually know typically exactly where they are for the emplaced ones. Mobile ones, maybe not so much. So we're going to right-click, add a package, new, and we're going to actually frag this package with an escort just because. Deed, flight of 2, veteran. Make sure they're from the 14th Fighter Squadron. Yep. We're going to lock the takeoff time to be ASAP, which is going to be about 1:51 is the minimum we can manage. 1:51. Then new, and we're going to do a escort, 2 F-16s. Target is Mako 5. So we are Mako 5, and we want them to escort them. So there we go. So they will now escort us on this mission. There's one other thing I would like to do. Normally, I'm going to do this a little bit more accurately, but I'll do this. I'm going to do this more back of the napkin. I believe it is 6 nautical miles. This is always going to be a little coarse instead of a little like nice and fine. But the runway heading for 36 is 355. Actually, it's 356 and 6 nautical miles out. So we will add a pre-planned threat steer point, and we will just call this, we've got a whole bunch of names down here. So we'll do Sky, accept, plop that down, and then plop our ruler down here. And I believe this one is normally 7, but we're going to just leave it as is. And we'll add another pre-planned threat steer point, plop this down, move the ruler out of the way. And we're going to name this one, let's say, Boko. And what this is going to do is it's going to give us a little bit of, they're aligned on the runway heading. So if we're ever doing ILS, they'll give us an indication of when we should have captured the ILS glide slope by. And if we haven't, then we can go around. Otherwise, they are typically fairly useful markers. With say we're approaching like we did before, we can select these markers and fly to them rather than straight at our runway and trying to visually offset ourselves from it. It's quite a useful little trick. And then we're going to go in here and we're going to adjust our steer points. So if you want to add a steer point, you can just, there's a little box between some of the steer points that you can move. And so what we want to do is we want to fly over here and approach the SA5, preferably from not directly through the SA2. And we want to egress not through the SA2. You ask about the SAM circles. Yes, the red markings are the SAM ranges right now. And oh, there's another thing I really also like to do. Pre-planned threat steer point. This is going to be a Patriot, because sometimes we got to come running to Patriot Senpai to clean up our messes, because the Patriots do some really good work. Davey Dave. Oh, I missed your follow. Thank you for the follow, Davey Dave. But yes, the Patriots do some real good work. They will utterly obliterate just about anything within their range as long as they have the ammo. And they are quite scary things if you're on the other side of them, because they are at least what the Falcon BMS community calls a track while scan system, which means that they launch the missile. You will get when a Patriot locks onto you, you will get a warning that a Patriot is locked onto you. But nothing on the radar of the Patriot changes from a lock-on to a missile firing, which is terrifying because you get no launch warning for it. And that is the worst from a pilot perspective. So we're planning to hit this SA-5. This is our deed mission that we need to adjust the course for, because I adjusted the course of the other group. We're going to slot in. Yeah, that's a long range. The SA-5 we're going after also has a long range. We're going to go into our loadout. We've got harms, which is exactly what we want. I'm going to unslot our wingman. Modern S-300 can do the same trick. Yep. Track while scan missiles are absolutely scary. We're going to go to other. I'm going to take the sniper targeting pod just because I like having a targeting pod. If we run into air-to-air stuff, it can help us ID things just a little bit faster than AWACS might be able to, depending on what it is. My visual recognition is so-so. There are some things like a MiG-21 I'm going to get instantly. Other things I'm going to go squint at. Yeah, so we're flying into the firing line on this mission. We were before, but the SA-5's got a longer range. And also, like I had mentioned, we unselected our wingman. Falcon BMS is a dynamic campaign, so all of these items are a limited number of things we have. So if you notice, like these all say hi. If we switch to other things, we might find some that are low. Like there's some that are out because we just don't even stock them. We need to do an overview of data link setup. You got to relearn all of it. Are you coming from DCS? Because that would be what I would expect. Data link, there is generally not much you have to do to set up, but also there's not much you can do to change it. Now let's go to
all right,
briefing. For the earlier question Tibunev had about the comm ladder. So comms in Falcon BMS are generally pretty simple and straightforward because the mission really handles all of it for you. So normally, like this ATIS would be channel 1. There's no actual frequency for that, and it's just reserved for future options, what the devs have said that I've read at least. Then ground of your departing is 2, tower is 3, departure is 4. So your airport, you just on your numpad, every time you want to change your frequency, you just select your radio, you hit numpad plus, you just go to the next one is what you're really supposed to be doing. I don't quite do that. So then after your departure, you get to your check-in. Check-in doesn't really do anything. It's just AWACS. It's more important if you're doing a bar cap because it tells the AWACS that, hey, yes, I'm on station, start counting my patrol time. That matters if you care about getting your mission objectives perfect every time. If you don't, it doesn't really matter. Then tactical frequency is what matters. Frequency 6. You've flown this F-16 in BMS, but you remember having to set up some frequency or having to transmit to get data link for your flight. For your own flight, there's nothing you have to set up. But if you've got a package like I've got fragged, there is some setup, and we can go over that. And you'll see it. Is it in here? It'd be more obvious in whatchamacallit, in weapon delivery planner, but it's not shown here. But we know that we're the first one in the flight, and then we know that Beast 3, our escort, is the second set in the flight, and that will come in handy later. But yeah, for the comm ladder, you just go 6, then you're on your AWACS frequency, then your arrival is set back to 432, and you're all set. And then there's the alternate, which is 10, 11, 12. Yeah, these channels are all preset on the radio, and we'll go in. I can go over that once we get into the sim. So we're going to go to our data cartridge, and well, these channels are preset if you set your data cartridge up. So you set up your data cartridge just by going comm, you hit comm plan, IFF plan, save, and you want to do this every time religiously if you're ever in doubt, you just do it again, because having your plan messed up can ruin your flight. Like, you can't get AWACS or anything, and it's awful. So this should all be set up. We're going to save our campaign. Just overwrite that. And we will take off. We're going to do a ramp start. We got 7 minutes. It's more than enough time. I love not having to swap over the UI. It's so great. Thank you, BMS devs. This is the best Christmas present ever. So close our canopy. We'll hide our pilot legs by hitting Alt and C, releasing, hitting P. Nothing above us. So we're going to arm our seat. Main power on. Probe heat on. Fuel source normal. IFF normal. Lights to normal. Lights switches on. Engine to start 2. Air source normal. Engine anti-ice auto. Oxygen on. While that's running, I'm going to turn on our comm volume, comms to both, comms to UFC, ILS on in case we decide we want it. And we're beating our engine RPM anyway. The F-16 honestly starts up really quick once you get the hang of it, and you end up waiting for INS and the RPM to go up. All right, 20%. Throttle to idle. Now, as a fun fact, while we're waiting, supposedly the Greek, according to the Greek manuals for the F-16, the jet fuel start accumulators are used for your brakes, which is a bit scary to think about. So you have limited braking action in the F-16, and apparently after 75 seconds of maximum braking, you're completely dry of braking capability. So it advises, if you're going to stay anywhere, to hit your parking brake. But we've got chocks on right now, so we're gonna start up our systems. Left hard point, right hard point, fire control radar, radar altimeter. Lights on. FLCS bit reset. ECM on. I think best practice is to not turn it on the ground, but oh well, we're gonna do that. Comms are set. Close the spider. RWR power on. Chaff flare. Manual mode. I don't really like the semi-auto or any of the other modes, so I leave it as is. Stores config, we are heavy, so Cat 3. Taxi lights. Parking brake on. Hand off the radar warning receiver. Turn on our HUD. We forgot to start the INS alignment because I am big dumb. Got some A-10s starting to take out, taxi out. They're not going to fare too well this early in the campaign because A-10s die. Stream setup with the MFDs on the bottom is really cool. I'm so glad I could get them. So the MFD, I think a lot of people misunderstand this, but I do not crop the stream to fit the MFDs over anything. I play in 21:9, so well, I play in 21:9, and Twitch cannot handle a 21:9 resolution of a 4K resolution streaming like at all. So I have to downsize the entire stream to 1080p, which leaves a whole bunch of space at the bottom, which I figure I might as well fill with stuff. Yeah, so it's just extra room that is empty, and other streamers I think do a better way of handling it in some respects. Like one of my favorite VTubers, Wishy, who does a lot of Tarkov stuff, she's got a little bit of filler at the top and bottom, which makes it less obvious. Mine certainly does not make it hidden like at all. So we're gonna load our data cartridge before I forget that. Test page, clear. And I'm doing this with my mouse, but I actually have like I can just use my MFD panels to do this. I love these panels so much. It's great. I hit swap, which I did not want to hit. INS is aligned because we are lollygagging here. We might actually not make our takeoff time. So list page 0 HMCS course. And then we can do the azimuth elevation. So this is the fine one, and you use your radar cursor to bring this in, and you hit that. And then there's roll, but roll looks fine. Parking brake is on. We're going to ask the ground crew to remove the EPU ground safety pin and remove the wheel tracks. Then we're going to taxi for departure. We're number 2.
Mako 5. You are number 2 for departure. Taxi, Papa, Echo.
My head tracking feels a little weird right now, so I'm trying to straighten it out. Can you fix not needing to export 21.9 by being poor? Yes, you can. All right, so then, since we're about to taxi, radar altimeter on, fire control radar, standby, and CRM is the normal mode, and I get this error. One day I will actually spend the effort to look up this error. I don't know, but it says check control. Don't really care about any of this, and it works. I've never had that error cause anything as a problem. So just as a bit of a background, I am not a super hardcore flight sim streamer. You're a flight sim player. I don't go, oh, I have to do all the checks by the book or everything. I do what works.
East 3, taxi, Papa, Echo, and then hold short,
and
runway 18.
As long as things are working, I am gonna roll with it. East 3, taxi. Honestly, I found there's nothing wrong with being super into the sim, but at least as a person watching, when I've watched it, flight sim streams like that, it can be pretty intimidating. And my goal is to get more people into flight sims. Just got no traffic coming. Checklists are boring. Yes, they can be. They can also save your life. But I have cut out some of the stuff that the Falcon BMS checklist tells you to do, and I do stuff out of order. Would that fly on the real plane? Probably not.
Viper 5-1, request taxi back.
Hey, that's us requesting a taxi back from the last mission.
Viper 5-2,
oh,
request
data link
taxi
setup.
back.
Sorry, I forgot about that. So we're going to go to list page,
Welcome back.
and then you will see enter is data link. So enter, then we're going to go to sequence. And so it's already filled in as 1-1 and 1-2. So that's my bird and my wingman's. If we want to fill in the other flight, we will put in 2-1, enter, and then 2-2, enter. And that's all we can do. Those are already numbers put into the system by the data cartridge. There's no way we can really fix that on the fly if we wanted to, say, pick some other flight and get them going. It is a thorn in my side of DCS because it uses a similar setup, but you can't get the full data link information in on the fly, at least not any way I know of. And then once we are in the air and we are on our tactical frequency, we can switch over, we can do an IFF in to see the locations of all of our flights. We might be causing a traffic problem here, because they said we were number 2 for departure.
Mako 5-1, what is your problem? You are disrupting traffic.
Oh, no, my turn. Okay. The IFF request is temporary.
Mako
Yeah, so
5-1, contact tower.
I'll tell you about that as soon as we get airborne. All right. Tower is handing us, our ground is handing us off to the tower, so we increment to UHF 3. We will request departure. And that,
5, F-16,
it's not going to get fixed, is it?
Mako 5, going to sound tower, weight 220 at 9 knots, runway 18, you're cleared for takeoff.
That might get fixed at some point.
Beast 5, going to sound tower, continuing bound for runway 18.
Sometimes you get traffic jams with AI, and it kind of sucks. but there is not a lot you could do about that other than trying to frag things a little farther apart. I'm going to sit here and hope that is our wingman right there. Oh yeah, I can tell by his armaments. Yeah, he's our wingman. I should have known that. Wait for him to line up. Give a quick system check. ECM is in standby. Brakes on. Rotate at 180. Release the brakes.
Brake right.
All right, we're gonna have to be a little careful. Rotate, because there is a group doing a brake right above us, so we cannot exceed about 500 feet until we are well past the end of the runway. You're up. Afterburner off. You can see them braking right behind us. Contact departure. Or airborne. Yeah. 130.
5, Kunasan, departure, fly heading 130, resume on navigation.
Beast 5-2, declaring an emergency.
Beast 5-2 declaring emergency, huh? What's going on? Alright, we'll get on to our tactical frequency, and if we do IFF... If we do IFF in, or was it IFF out? I might have my binds mixed up. But you'll see our wingmen popping up, and you can do continuous, and it will continuously put them up. As far as I understand, your radio should not be working during that, but BMS does not simulate that because the IDM improved data modem, or what I like to call it, improvised data modem, because it really is a very improvised system, is using your UHF antenna to transmit data. Theoretically, there's a possibility of, well, I know a little bit about radio, and I think theoretically there's a possibility that you could transmit a little screwily on the same frequency with a sideband antenna and get it to work, but I'm not certain. I'm not that much of a radio knowledgeable person to know about that. All right, so we're going to ignore some of our waypoints here. We're going to go straight to our ingress waypoint. I'm going to pitch down until our speed stops decreasing. Here, and we're going to do an attitude hold. I've got these switches on my controller, which is very nice. All right, while we have a second, are there any questions? I've got plenty of questions on how the hell this IFF, or not IFF, how this ECM works. We're also going to fence in right now, just in case. We've got a contact IFF check. Green 4, it's friendly. I'm going to be really bad about trying to lock onto things with this because my cursor is inverted right now. Oh, Airshow, you have a question? No, I can't. Shut up, you dingus, Airshow. Come on. Oh, let me see if this thing actually works. Nope, it's not going to work. Okay. Okay, thank you, Stream Deck. You could use that audio. Oh, no, get out of here. Oh, yeah, steering select. Turn that on. Air to ground mode, power on. So our delivery of the harms is going to be the easiest method that there is for harm delivery. And that is with rocket-assisted munitions. Okay. Okay, seriously, no jokes. We're going to use the harm targeting system, which is this display on the right now. Unfortunately, I can't like laser pointer on stream, on the stream ones, which are much bigger for you guys. But you'll see that there is, I can do this. You'll see that there's a whole bunch of things. It's like S's are search radars. There's some like the markings from the SA2s, which are not actual things, they're just our waypoints. And there's like a 2A, which should be the search radar for an SA2. And then there's the 5A, which is the SA5 search radar, I believe. And I think it's gonna have I think that's a 5T coming up, which is gonna be our guy we want to get. Hey, wingman, you are going to fence in. We are going to altitude hold. Got that 5T. And we're going to switch our fire control radar back to CRM so we can keep our situational awareness up. And we're going to lock up. How are you guys doing the tutorial missions in the KTO? You open up the PDF on the second monitor, but it's so annoying pausing and then reading and unpausing. Or when things get too fast and you mess it up. So this is what I do. I pause. You hit P on your keyboard, there's pause. There's also an interactive pause. For the first training mission, for the first tutorial mission, I think they throw quite a bit more at you than is strictly necessary. So what I suggest is you watch a tutorial. If you want, I can go through the aircraft startup again. Is it possible for tactical frequency not working because there's no AWACS airborne? Yep, that is entirely possible. If you are getting up in the first hour of the first day of the campaign, there might not be an AWACS airborne. And if you have weapon delivery planner, that will make it a lot more obvious. If you guys want, I don't know if weapon delivery planner is even updated right now for 4.37, but we can try it. But yeah, I highly recommend that you, on the first mission, you do the ground start. You're on the ground, the engine startup. None of that stuff is really like time sensitive. It's not too important. If you take a couple minutes, like there's only a couple steps, like the startup when you're waiting for the RPMs to climb, that really matters. But the other thing, but then you can get in the air, and I suggest that you skip most of the navigation stuff at first, and then just you can end the mission and go to the landing mission, which lines you up basically on the runway. You can try the landing, and then you can separately go out and try the navigation mission. And the navigation mission, I remember getting quite frustrated at that one. It has, it's throwing out a whole bunch of stuff at you. It's telling you about your HSD, which is this display, and then it's telling you about your HSI, which is this display, and it's confusing. It's not giving you like pictures saying, hey, your HSI, which is pictured below, is here. I think it's, one of the tougher missions, honestly. But once you can get past the first tutorial missions, things become a lot easier. But this is like, for example, this harm delivery that we're going to do. We've just switched to the harm aiming display. We bring this cursor over that I'm having a lot of trouble with because I can't get things sighted. We are going to... I just did the wrong thing, and my autopilot is turning towards it. You can hit your pinky switch for an expanded view, which is what I need right now really bad. Get that 5T, we lock it up, and it's got a pink box around it. And now what we're seeing is that when we hover our cursor over, we've got this display that is saying PGM1. It starts at 5 and it comes down to 1, which means we've got a good firing solution on this with our harm. So our master arm is on, we are in air to ground mode. We're quite a ways out, so we're going to give this harm the best shot we can, and we're going to fly right at it.
Beast 3-1, package marshal.
Package marshal, okay, that's our escort flight. We're going to fly towards it, and we are going to hold down Pickle, Magnum. Surprised we're not suddenly rolling so hard. But we're gonna take a right. It's always the first two missions that get you frustrated, and then you just stop and wait for the next patch, and the cycle continues. I'm gonna push through. Yeah. So I think some of what it explains in that first mission is kind of kind of not needed, because using this for your nav I think is pretty pointless. It's maybe like an auxiliary nice to have skill. Let me get this airplane flying somewhere. Altitude hold, steering select, bring me to that waypoint where I'm not in danger, please. And then is it shift 7 and then 0, and we'll see if this harm hits. But for the most part, most of your navigation is done through the horizontal situation display on the Block 30 and later F-16s. Not that there's anything earlier in Falcon BMS. Is this actually going to hit something? Oh yeah, right in at the radar. Harms be good. Holy crap. Let's bring ourselves back to the aircraft, turn off that autopilot. We're going to go for a bonus shot here. Where's that SA-2? There's a Patriot down here. I am so confused with my cursor being opposite. The Block 1 F-16 is an engine with nothing. I mean, basically, kind of yes. The Block 1 F-16 is kind of off, or the early Block F-16s. Is this KTO? Yes, this is Korean Theater of Operations. Gonna trim out the aircraft a bit. Now, supposedly, trim is supposed to show up down here. It is not in this. I think in DCS it shows up, which is Airshow answers our question before of if you land with one giant 2,000-pound bomb, how do you trim out for takeoff? BMS has a trim reset button, which is fictional and doesn't exist. So we're gonna keep banking over, and we're gonna try to find an SA-2 that we can fight. We got some contacts, looks like mostly friendlies. We can also ask AWACS by hitting Q, Q1, vector to nearest air threat. And as a pro tip, if AWACS is giving you information in bullseye, the target is fairly far away. If they're giving you information in bra, if they say bra, you're in danger close. Never noticed until now, but BMS is pretty short. Yeah, I think it is 30 nautical miles, I think, offhand. But yeah, that's the simulation bubble. Nothing is really like happening outside of that, I don't think. Actually, we got a SA-2 right in front of us here, actively transmitting. So we're gonna lock it up, just as an extra thing. You have the harm aiming display. You bring your cursor over it, you lock it up, and then you want to fly kind of to the side of it. If you fly straight at it, you're gonna stay at like PGM 4 or 5. If you turn sideways, we have the MiG-29 there. We have the MiG-29 there. I'm scared. ECM is authorized. It's not firing because we're using our harm aiming display right now, so we can't actually use our ECM without interrupting our avionics. You wonder how it is. You wonder how the view distance is in real life? That's a good question. How's our PGM doing on that? Sam. Still 4. So we're gonna have to fly forward for a bit. The other thing that's really useful to have is my heading isn't working. So I'm trying to bring that yellow dauber over. I've got a controller that's supposed to do it, but I guess I messed that up. If you're not trimmed out nicely, sometimes it's really useful to set that and then do heading select on your autopilot, which is this switch up, and it'll fly you straight and level. That lets you get heads down if you can't be bothered to trim something, or you really need to like quickly handle something that you can't be bothered to trim out before. Now that 2T, I think we lost that because I don't see that SA2 on our radar warning receiver. And harms work best if you can see it on both the harm aiming display here and on your radar warning receiver, because that means it's still active. The human eye can't see further than 5 nautical miles anyway. What are you, Jason? Jason from aisle 2? Is it possible to get threat circles on the fly without pre-planning them? I don't think so. I don't know of any way. I honestly wouldn't be surprised if there was some roundabout way, but I don't think there is. We're flying like right over the SAM and it's not there. So I guess it's gone. Let's take a look at this one. I put my SA2 marks a little too accurate, so I can't see these things too well. We got a 2 right off our right. Is it still active? That's quite close, if it is active. Or it's, oh no, that's a 2T that's way out. It's way out over there. There's that MiG-29 coming in. Anyone try the F-15? Nope. It's great they're getting rid of what? There's a lot going on, so I'm kind of getting... what is... I didn't see anything for this guy. What is this? You can hold TMS up and you'll spotlight, which will let you scan a sector a lot faster. So if you know where a contact is... Shit, that guy is really close. MRM override mode. And that's an F-16. Nearest air threat, please. Bra 030.
Magic 7, nearest threat, route 030, 8, 10,000.
8, 0308. Holy shit, he is like right here. Declare.
Mako
For ball.
1, Magic 7, Fear Ball 3, friendly 1, ended.
It's a friendly. Where is it? 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 We are about to get into the shit of things.
Mako 5-1, Magic 7, nearest threat, route 350, 4, 11,000, gold, hostile print MiG-29s, 2 ship.
3504. That looks like an F-16. Or an FA-18. It might have gotten fragged and AOX is still picking it up. Hey, are we close enough to this other SA2 to PGM2? Heck yeah. Magnum. We'll fire that last missile off. Load cat switch. We'll hope it hits, see what happens. I wish I could switch this on to a thing, but I cannot. Not at the moment, or I'll have to ask about it. We are going to make our escape now. Waypoint 8 is me being disoriented very. SA2 is locking onto us. Jammer, you have authorization. Please work. Why is that not working? See, now it's working. Authorized, yeah, now it's working. I wonder if that's because we turned it on the ground. Now it's authorized, yeah.
One, Pitbull.
Pitbull? What? Oh, that's the other guy. Okay.
Mako 5-1, Magic 7, nearest threat, bullseye 360.
360.
3120.
3-1 is north of... Actually, I don't know where my... Oh, my bullseye is right next to me. My bullseye is right here. Normally, I have it set to Seoul, which is around over here-ish. So I'm going to have to set that. Pitbull means that your missile is guiding itself. Let's put our radar out. Got that's out. I've yet to learn fighter lingo. Yeah, there's a lot of it I still don't know. Wish they would have done MiG-29. Is that for DCS, I think? Oh, they're getting rid of the limited view distance. That would be nice. Maybe next year for MiG-29. Oh, wait, no, DCS already has MiG-29, or unless they mean a clicky MiG-29, right? Yeah, the work in progress F-15. Who's that? F-16. They should have done MiG-29. If they did MiG-29, then they could actually... Somebody could actually do a Ukrainian theater, and you could down on Russia's shitty aircraft the whole time. And somebody could mod in harms on the MiG-29. Allegedly a clicky MiG-29A in development. I would love to fly the MiG-29, except I do not have enough brain cells to manage it. I don't have the brain cells to learn a new aircraft. Some beefy mandroid arms? What? What? Tank, what are you talking about here? Don't learn it, just fly it. Use the force. That's not how airplanes work. Man, we gotta go a ways to get back to base. That's how it worked in Top Gun Maverick. Well, I'm sorry to say that Top Gun Maverick isn't exactly accurate. It's not that complicated? I don't know, it seems pretty complicated. Let me actually check my CMS program. So this should be chaff. Good thing it didn't do anything. That is awful. Why is it doing nothing? Oh boy. Panic button? Panic button does nothing. What? That is not good. I should have tested this when I set my controls, but
Beast 3, Magic 7, be advised, threat aircraft, bullseye 320, 3000.
Chat, player.
that program worked. So did my programs that I set just not work? I guess so. We're gonna have to check our data cartridge. We can go to the list page, and then is it miscellaneous? And then it is... No, it is EWS, which is 7. Burst quantity 3, burst interval, sequence interval, that doesn't matter. So this is set. It should work.
Beast 3, magic 7, be advised, hostiles bearing 33021.
Why doesn't that work? Chaff and flare is 0. Oh, wait.
Beast 3-1, engaging.
I see.
Rob 06023 24,000.
Let me enter.
Engaging. Target Rob 3252 24,000. Beast 3-1, engaging. Target Rob 32022 24,000.
Why can't I change it? I wonder if BMS just doesn't let you change it. But I see what the problem is. Sequence quantity needs to be 1, so I just moroned that. Hey Percival, how are you doing? 4.37 is pretty good. Our jammer is now a fancy thing down here. So right now, there's something to our rearward that was jamming. So we've got 3 and 4 are transmitting, and we've got 4 hotkeyed because 4 is including the I band, which is our radar as well. So if we want to jam stuff and we want to not jam our radar, I can toggle that one on and off pretty quick. Hey, Lunk Will, how are you? What's my verdict? It works. It's 4.37. Not much else to say. I haven't had a ton of time with it. I've been wrestling with control problems just because so it happens when you upgrade and you got to rebind all your controls. How good is the jammer? I have honestly no idea. We have flown 2 missions and basically done nothing with the jammer. Figuring out how the jammer is going to work against enemy aircraft is going to be a big question, because realistically, the jammer cannot be on while we're trying to lock up things.
Beast 3, magic 7, be advised, hostiles bearing 340.
And in the current mode we're in, it does not jam targets. The jammer does not run in front of us. So we're seeing this targets in front of us at like 40, but if we switch it to this,
2, cheap shot.
And we switch this on, we're going to lose those targets
2, cheap shot.
for the most part. Yeah, the jammer is a lot more defensive. So you've got 3 modes. The first one here is avionics priority. So your avionics run, so it doesn't interfere with your avionics. This mode is jammer priority. That doesn't matter. Second mode is jammer priority, so it'll try to jam as much as it can. The third one is always on. So the difference between 2 and 3 is that 2 is forward backwards, 3 is forward backwards, but 3 is always transmitting. Try the jammer in a 1v1 scenario with AI and BBR. I don't know. I think the jammer, where it's going to matter is coordinating with other units to jam. 2 and 3 will no-rad yourself. 1 will not, but it reduces ranges. No, so 1 shouldn't. So when you're in 1, it shouldn't be any penalty to your radar because the front jammer is not running at all. It's only the aft jammer. In 2, it's running the front and aft jammer, and your radar range is supposed to be reduced by about 30%. But it only jams what threats it detects. So I assume because we've got an F-16 always like locking us up, it's always jamming on modes 3 and 4, and then the last one it's just always transmitting. So you've got typically you'll see an S for standby, A for authorized. So if I deauthorize this, it will be on standby. If I authorize it, some will go active and ready to go. Others will go T, which is transmitting. Well, they added a whole new UI, which I've been loving because I don't need to use as complicated of a OBS setup for it. As we're coming in for a landing, let's do a nearest air target.
Beast 3, Magic 7, be advised, hostiles bearing 0, 1, 0, 2, 2, 25,000.
010.
51, Magic 7, nearest threat, bullseye, 2, 4,
Okay,
7,
bullseye
8,
call for
3,
us. That
19,000.
doesn't matter.
Hot, hostile print, big 20.
So we're going to switch to the approach frequency. We are going to request an unrestricted approach.
Good morning. Mako
Runway 18 this time.
approach. Continuing down for straight in approach.
And here you can see those 2 points I put down, Boko and Sky. Those are going to help us align for our 2980.
Turn left heading 200. Descend to
Let's just set
4,000.
that.
Maintain 300 knots.
Throttle to idle. We're going to do a 10-degree dive and prepare for our approach. I've been thinking of the jammer in terms of radio jamming, which may be completely off base because radar has to bounce off of a target. So, and I don't honestly know how the implementation in BMS works because I've only had my hands on 4.37 for like the stream time plus 2 hours. And I haven't even fought anything in the air with this yet. But from what I can understand, or from what my thought is, I think you would want to have a wingman who is jamming, and then you're retaining your ability to shoot. How realistic that is, or if that is how it works, or if that is realistic, I don't know. But that's what I expect is going to happen, because I'm pretty sure.
5-1, contact tower for landing.
I'm pretty sure that jamming an enemy's radar is not going to affect the friendly's radar who aren't in the area of the jammer.
Continuing bound for runway 18, red board on final.
Integrated alt launcher is huge. Yeah, is it integrated? I know it ships with it. Shipping with it is still good though.
Contact ground. Switch 27352.
Let's take a look at the runway before we come in for landing. I don't see anyone taxiing out, so we should be pretty clear. We're coming in pretty steep, so we're going to put out our speed brakes. We're going to zoom in our HSD, zoom in our radar. We'll try to do a defensive counter-air mission next. Take in those speed brakes. Continue dropping our altitude. Have I had any try with the F-15? I do not want to try a new aircraft at this point. I just got done binding all my, I just had to today bind all my controls for this, so I don't really want to, hey, the Patriot's firing at something. Patriot Senpai, save me. We will tell the tower that we are on final approach. Gear down. Bubble up. Air brakes out.
Runway 18.
Need to come up a bit. These sick crosswinds we get. Drop speed.
Maiko, 5-1, Kunasan Tower, Wayne, 220.
Gears down and locked.
9 knots, runway 18, clear for landing, jet gear down.
Excuse me while I gotta concentrate on this landing. And we're down. The nose up. Kamini, you can't just come in here and drop a compliment. You're gonna make me blush. Oh, and then you want you request a moe moe kyun during one of the most critical phases of flight. You trying to cause an accident? Need a blushing Mika in your life? Give me, yeah. You're gonna make me blush. You're gonna make me blush so hard I crash my airplane.
Mako, 5-1, contact ground.
Clear ECM. Hey Hoffman, how are you? We're going to be trying out the ECM in this next flight. The ECM, I really don't understand the application of it. So we're going to figure it out. Okay, so we hit the fire control radar of the SA-5, but that other SA-2 we fired on, we missed. I kind of expected that. It was a long shot. Looks like a drunk Mika, though. Fine, I'll put the shy over. Wait, let's go drinking? Yes, when? When can we drink together, Kamini? I would love to take you out to a bar. So this SA-2 is down, or SA-5 is mostly down. That's triple A, accept, so we know where the site of it is. This one, let's recon this. Is this still up? It's still 100% operational. So we're going to add a pre-planned threat steer point. SA-2, accept. Plop that right down. You'll find time. Yeah. If you want to do like a drinking collab stream or something, or like a wine tasting stream or anything like that, let me know. It should be fun. Is this SA-2 still up? It is still up. So what we can do to handle this is we can add a package new. We're not going to fly this one. Veteran, okay. They're going to take off ASAP, which is going to be 237. All right. We are going to add a package new. I like to frag them as a bar cap just so we can actually win. 237 for takeoff time. Flight path is here. So there's some enemy aircraft flying around. Okay. Then we're going to go into the bar cap waypoints and we're going to set this patrol duration down to like 3 minutes. Looks good to me. Loadout. AM-120Bs, AM-120Cs. I don't really mind keeping a mix of them since I still am dubious about the tracking capabilities of the AM-120Cs after the last time we tried to really use them in BMS. Maybe they fixed it, maybe they didn't. I don't like to put all my eggs in one basket. We'll unselect our wingman. We're going to go to other sniper targeting pod. We're going to bring that for ourselves just so we have it. Data cartridge, com plan, IFF plan. Warning system. We need our countermeasures to actually work really badly this time. So let's make sure we get this sorted out. And then 6, 221 flare. Chap is 0. Save. Save the campaign. We'll slot in. Let's do this again, just to be sure. Take off. We'll do another ramp start. Did we win? Yeah, we took out the SAM site. We took out the radar for the SA-5, so it won't be shooting at us during this mission. And now we are going to do the hardest thing you can do in Falcon BMS, which is air-to-air combat. All right, same thing as always. Close the canopy. Is the base C or C7? I believe they're C5s. You get to see a startup? Yep, I will. If you, actually, I assume you're going to want it. And you'll actually see it's an AM120C7, but the AM120Bs have that as well. AM120B, it actually says that. I think these are C5s. Somebody brought up that this is incorrect labeling for it, but yeah. So I'll go through the startup slowly for you, Savior. I'm not going to do it according to the manual because there's better ways to do it. So the first thing you'll notice is I don't seal the canopy. I save that until after the engine start is done. We're going to check above us, nothing above us. So we are going to arm the seat. My brain is shutting down now. Oh my God. So next, what I do is I hit main power on, fuel source normal, or air source normal. That is an important step. You really got to do it. Then we will do probe heat on, fuel source normal. If you don't do the fuel source to normal, your tanks are feeding by gravity. And so if you do an invert, if you do an inversion or something, your fuel tanks are going to run out. Yeah, the air source is important. Otherwise, you overheat your engine and it explodes. Then IFF, you're going to tick this until it's normal. Lights, you're going to switch to normal, and you're going to switch the position to flash, wingtail, and fuselage to bright. From here, you're going to flip the switch down to start 2. We always do start 2 in the F-16. Then over on the right, I like to hit oxygen on and engine anti-ice to auto. You're going to watch this RPM gauge until it hits 20%. And I wonder if we're ever going to get a failed start in this stream. I have had one single failed start before, because there is a percentage chance for random failures on the startup, and it is apparently supposed to be somewhat realistic to real percentages of failures. So 20%. We hit the banana here, throttle to idle. You say in SMS it is a C5. I'll check that out then. And then we're going to watch the FTIT gauge. Hot start is entirely possible. Hot start is when we get above 750 on this gauge. If that happens, you go over here, you hit your idle cutoff, and you cut throttle to the engine, and it cools down. But we're all good. It's going, needle's going down, so our engine's on and stable. Next, we come over to this right panel. You have this button, which I don't know what that one does yet. We have the stores management, multifunction displays, upper front console. The map switch does nothing. We have GPS and data link. You switch the EGI, which is our inertial navigation system, to normal. Then you do left hardpoint, right hardpoint, fire control radar, radar altimeter to standby, or you can turn it on if you want to skip a step later. Instrument panel lights on. I like this just to have some more contrast to the lights. You got a hot start once. I've gotten one hot start in my entire time playing BMS, which is about 9 months now. I haven't actually been playing it that long. I've gotten one hot start and one jet fuel start failure. All right, then on the left side here, we're going to do FLCS bit reset. That just resets an error that won't go away otherwise. We're going to make sure our comms are in upper front console. Select here. We're going to turn on COM 1 volume, COM 2 volume, set our comms to both. We're going to turn on our ILS just in case we decide we want it. I'm going to leave ECM off for now. I had added it to my startup checklist, but I think in this patch now we have to turn it on later, so we're going to hold off on that one. We're going to seal the spider. RWR power on. missile warning system, jammer, and RWR. Chaff flare mode to manual. I prefer manual mode over the automatic modes. HMCS is on. We are, we're a Cat 3 because we've got the wing tanks, 2 AMRAAMs, and 2 Sidewinders. So until we fire one of these missiles or burn up all the fuel from this tank, we are going to be a Cat 3. So we're going to switch Cat 3 parking brake. We're going to toggle on landing lights to taxi. If you got any questions, Savior, don't hesitate to pop in. I'll do my best to stop. And then we're going to come up here, hand off the RWR. That gets us actual warnings for it. And you'll probably notice our HMCS is displaying in our cockpit right now, which is what it's really not supposed to do. Cat 3, yeah, stores config. There's Cat 1, which is light, and Cat 3, which is heavy. If I'm remembering correctly, Cat 1 is limited to around 9 Gs. Cat 3 is limited to around 6 Gs. What are the different arrows in the middle panel? Give me a minute to finish this startup off. INS is aligned, so we're going to switch it to nav mode. I'm going to turn on our HUD. I'm going to get the HMCS calibrated before I answer any more questions, just because it's bugging me. So we're going to go to the list page here. We're going to go to miscellaneous, which is 0, then R, which is HMCS, so RCL. We're going to hit sequence, and sequence, and then we're going to hit 0, and then you have to line these up and hit the cursor enable button. That's your course alignment. That's generally all you really need. You can do it a little bit more accurately. Different arrows on the middle panel mean. When you say middle panel, do you mean middle panel in the aircraft, or do you mean on my stream overlay? Do the sys test, the RWR system test. You want this? Okay, fine. You happy now? You happy? You happy? In the overlay, well, that is a parallel of this. There shouldn't really be like any arrows on it, but if you do the system test, yeah, nothing really, nothing pops up. RWR just goes burr, and it gives us some stuff that I don't know what any of this means. It's probably only an engineer knows. And then we'll usually get an I or a WO, which means that it's, not really working yet because we're on the ground. Oh, next thing, avionics fault IFF. So we can clear this. We can go to test page, and we can just clear. As with any heavy machinery that's complicated, an error pops up, we just reset it and hope for the best. And if it comes up again, then we worry about it. We've got another warning IFF, because there's no IFF data loaded because we didn't load our data cartridge. So we got to go to data cartridge, load, and this is going to load up slowly. Yeah, I spent some time years ago working with CNC Haas machines, and I didn't really get trained on how to use them properly. But the general thing was, a warning pops up. You hit reset. Is the warning still there? Hit reset again. And if you can hit reset like three times max and it goes away, then you're all good. And if it comes up again, then you got a bigger problem. All right, so we should be all set up now. We're not doing air to ground stuff, so I don't have any air to ground munitions to set up. We can go to steer point 2, UHF2. We can ask the ground crew to remove our EPU ground safety pin, remove our wheel chocks, and then request for a taxi for departure.
Good morning, Warhawk 3. You are number 2 for departure. Taxi, Papa, Echo, and then hold short, runway 18.
Runway 18, roger that.
Flat 1, taxi to the ramp. Welcome back.
So we engaged our nose wheel steering and we're taxiing out. Diamond 16, yeah, means... So I'll explain it a little better, but right now we've just got it pretty much blanked out. So a 16 with an caret above it means that it is an airborne F-16. And then a diamond around it means that it is locking us up with its radar, or it is locking up somebody near us with its radar. The RWR can't necessarily distinguish between something locking up say, our wingman and something locking us up, or something locking up our own ship. Fuse. Back when 4.34 released, you used to fly without the HMCS because you used numpad for head movement and it was too much effort. As long as you're not dead because of a flying debris hit you, everything's fine. First day at my school in front of a CNC machine. Sounds about right. Oh god, I love this song so much. This vibes with me whenever I'm flying so bad. And then important kind of detail that's helpful is if you go F4 and then 6 on your numpad, you'll get this little GS number. That is your ground speed. You want to limit your taxiing speed when turning to 15, and you're not supposed to taxi faster than about 25. If you go faster than 25, I don't think it really matters, because BMS does not actually handle braking wear out. I'm sure if I go...
Warhawk 3-1. What is
shut
your
up,
problem?
tower.
You are disrupting traffic.
I'm sure if I complain enough about it or abuse it enough, the devs will suddenly decide to add brake overheating. But otherwise, you can just hit max brakes and drop down. And you definitely want to make sure you turn slow enough. Otherwise, you probably will roll. Unless you want to do some drifting on the taxiway. Yeah, I'd rather not do some drifting. But taxiing is kind of complicated because you've got to figure out where the heck you are and where you're going. So then we stop. We switch to the tower frequency. We switch to landing lights.
Sound tower. Continue inbound for runway 18. Beast 3-2 on final.
On final? I don't see anybody on final.
Sound tower. Continue inbound for runway 18.
Then we'll request a departure.
Warhawk 3, Sound tower.
Well, I hope this doesn't backfire.
9 knots, runway 18. You're cleared for takeoff.
Oh, there they are. They're a ways out. If we are quick, we'll get in before there's a problem. Check the windsock. Wind is off our right, so we're going to line up downwind. Nose with steering off. Hold our brakes. Radar altimeter on. Fire control radar CRM. We're gonna wait for our wingman to line up behind us.
Beast 3-2, abort landing. Vector 175. Contact approach for resequencing.
Where is our wingman?
3, Sound tower. Expedite departure incoming traffic. Beast 3-1, Sound tower. Wing 220.
Well, we're gonna take off because there's stuff going on. So full throttle. Release the brakes when you're at 100 RPM, 100% RPM. And then we're gonna go until we're at 155 speed. 155, rotate. You'll hit it pretty quick in the F-16 and an air-to-air loadout. And we're gonna stay a little low until we're off the end of the runway, just in case there's anybody coming in over us. Afterburner off.
Warhawk 3-1, contact departure.
You're gonna need the past 20 minutes as a video on YouTube eventually. I've got a quick start video I recorded earlier today that I might post with minimal editing. And then if people want it, I'll try to do a startup explanation.
Departure. Depart heading 040. Resume on navigation.
You love the Falcon. I love the F-16 so much too. And the nice thing with BMS, at least if you're gonna like go from BMS to DCS, it's very easy. They're like the only thing that'll trip you up is that the RWR handoff does nothing, which I was sitting there for like 2 minutes clicking the button going, why don't work? Attitude hold. And then the other thing is that you use stored heading, because I think BMS does normal as stored heading. All right, so on the RWR, yeah, enemy. All right, let me pause and try to catch up on chat here. So On RWR, enemy aircraft will show up as well as SAMs, and there's nothing else right here right now, but we've got an F-16, which is likely our wingman. You'll also see it up here on our HMCS, head-mounted queuing system. It will give us the biggest threat, or rather the strongest radar signal that is locking us up, and it'll tell you where to look for it, which is really helpful when you're in close. Stevie and Aviation Plus do really good videos. Yeah, that's what stops me from really doing more tutorial content. There's already a lot of videos out there. Savior, I'll do your HUD rundown in a second. So then for RWR, again, yeah, like a MiG-29 will appear as a 2-9, and then there will be a caret over it, and if it's locked you up, it'll have a diamond. You might have heard some squiggly sounds coming from our RWR, coming from our airplane. The squiggly sounds, like it goes cree, cree. I can't really mimic it that well. But they sound kind of squiggly to me. The squiggly sounds are the enemy radar, and if you really know the radars very well, you can tell exactly what's locking you up from the sound. I'm not that good. Now HUD, there is a lot going on, and this changes based off of various things that are going on. So what we've got right now is first thing is our master arm is on. So there's arm here that tells you your master arm is on. If we unpause and I turn that off, that goes away. Then you've got your speed indicator and your speed tape. So this is how fast we're going in knots. On the right, we've got our altitude in feet. Below that, you've got your radar altimeter. So this is our pressure altimeter. This is our radar altimeter. Then you've got an AL, that is our altitude low. If we go to list page 2, this is where we will get warnings for things. So the car allow, that is our lowest warning, where it will go altitude. If we get above 10,000 feet and then we drop below it, we'll get an altitude warning as well. Below this one, unless we're landing, below the lowest car allow one, if we are below that without our landing gear down, we'll get continuous altitude warnings. And then this last one, I haven't played with this one, but I think that is when we get the pull up, only if we're that low. So then next we've got this B043.5. That is our steer point information. So we are 43.1 nautical miles away from our current selected steer point. If we fly straight at it at our current speed, we are expecting to get there in 5 minutes and 16 seconds. Over here on the left, you'll see that there's a 0.76, that is our speed in Mach. 1.8, I don't quite know what that is. Then we've got nav, which tells us we're in nav mode. And then there is a bullseye indicator, and this tells us where we are relative to bullseye. Automatic dive recovery isn't implemented. From what I've been able to glean from information, I don't think automatic dive recovery is on every F-16. I think it's only on a couple ones that were test beds. The G-force? No, the G-force is up here. It is this 1.1 number. And if I flip over, you'll see it drop. So that is our G-force up there. The 1.0, 2.1, that one I don't know offhand. It must not be important if I don't know it. And then you've got your bearing and your bearing tape. Let me get off this frequency so I don't have to deal with that. Your bearing and your bearing tape, it'll give you your numerical heading. At the bottom here, you have your roll indicator. I believe all the way over here is a 30-degree bank. 35. Because I think the marks are 10 degrees, so this is 10, then 20, then 30. This must be 45, yeah. That's 45. Then you've got your artificial horizon, and then there is a tadpole with your flight path marker. If you put your flight path marker on that tadpole, it will bring you to your current selected waypoint, and it will account for wind. So right now we've got a 41 knot wind that's blowing us around, and that's causing us to point to the side. You also have this gun cross, which is the direction the airframe is pointing. I hope that rundown is helpful. The HUD will also change depending on what mode you're in. Yeah, it's where your nose is pointed and where your gun is pointed as well. We are going to we're going to pull up. Autopilot is on, attitude hold. Actually, we can't climb that steeply. We are going to fence in, so we're going to turn off our lights. We're going to master arm on. We're going to put the ECM into ECM is not on. Okay. This is where I don't know what I'm doing. Is the BMS word rolled flat or curved? I think it's flat because you don't see any curvature, but technically you can't really see the curvature of the Earth until you're up quite high. And then for navigation, Savior, since you mentioned having problems with this, I've been doing a lot of this in the background, but this is our set of steer points. So we're heading to this one that's filled in. If we want to go to the next one, we use you can use the arrow keys by default. I think it's actually a shift for the arrow keys, or no, it's these by default because I just had my controls reset. But you can use your arrow keys up and down to swap between these. And when you're on the steer point and it's got this little up down next to it, you can hit the plus to go up, and it will increment your steer point to the next one. If you want to get more complicated, you can go into your steer point button here, and you can hit sequence to the right, and it will automatically sequence steer points once you fly over it. So you can actually fly an entire flight plan without having to actually fly it, and just sitting in autopilot and letting the autopilot handle everything. Which we are going to turn our autopilot onto altitude hold, and we're going to set it to steering select, which is going to turn towards our current waypoint. Auto steer point is great. I love it. I just wish there was a way to, there actually might be, but I wish there was a way to toggle it automatically off right now from this page. I'm going to take a drink of water, which means my head's going to go up. What's really nice in the with the HMCS is that we get a lot of this information repeated on our from the HUD on our HMCS, but only kind of the important things. So we see our G load, we see our speed, we see our arming indicator, what mode we're in, our bullseye location, the heading of where we're looking. So if AWACS says enemy bra and they give me a bearing, range, angle, altitude, you'll see when they give the bearing call, I'll turn my head and look for it. I try to figure out what that bearing is, and that gives me a better visual reference of where to turn to. I still don't know what this number is. Oh, is that 26 nautical miles to steer point 3? It looks like it. Okay, that's what it is. Before we hit air targets, you wanted to ask about bra. The heading, you're not sure who or what is the reference, or do I just point your plane? So there are two types of calls, and depending on your settings in Falcon BMS, I think it defaults to bullseye and then bra. So bullseye calls, they will tell us, and your bullseye is marked by this blue ringed bullseye here. But the bullseye calls will tell you that an enemy is bullseye, they'll give you a bearing. So it is from a bearing from that bullseye to that target, and then a range, and then an altitude. And with that, you have to piece together. And the bullseye call is technically more realistic because it is much less workload for an AWACS operator to call out bullseye for multiple different types of planes because their point of reference stays the same the entire time. BRA calls are harder, but for the AWACS, but are much easier for the pilots. And by default, when an enemy is close by, AWACS will give you a BRA call. So if you are flying along and you hit, if you hit Q, then Q, and you go vector to the nearest air threat, and it says Warhawk 3-1 Magic 7 nearest threat BRA. That means you gotta immediately pay attention, brain on, because something is close. Which is why I will advocate that it's probably better to use bullseye and BRA. Bullseye, it's very intimidating at first, but there's some things that help you. So if we ask him again, where's that air threat?
Warhawk 3-1 Magic 7 nearest threat bullseye
275 58.
Hostile print MiG-21s 2 ship.
So what we can see here is that on the right here, as I can select this HSD and I've got my cursor and I can slew that cursor around and this number on the right changes. That is the bullseye position of the cursor. So if AWACS tells me it's 27538, I think it was, I can bring that cursor over to it and see where that is related to me. And if you fly a theater with the constant bullseye for long enough, eventually you'll just intuit it. You'll get it. You'll know, hey, a bullseye 36015. That's screw off in the middle of nowhere compared to my flight plan area. I've gotten to that point, but not on this setup because bullseye is different on this campaign, and you can set bullseye. I'll do that after this if I remember. Because having your bullseye at a known location that is valid and important to you is quite vital. HSD will always be oriented to north bearing of bullseye. No, it will not. The HSD, north on the HSD is indicated by this flag. Another trick you can do is when you're setting up for a mission, you can add a 10 nautical mile long line straight north from bullseye, which can help you orient. I normally have other things that help me orient. Like I know that this is part of why I've got this extra context. I know that this line here is relatively east-west. So if something is direct north of bullseye, I know it's over here just by the context of this HSD. Which is why those additional steer point lines are very important and why I think DCS really needs to step up their game and add some of this stuff in because it is quite hard to fly without all of this additional context. You can also go and say check in so that they know we're on station and we get that timer counting. We've got, for RWR questions, we've got now SA2 behind us, which is weird. An F-16 behind us, an F-18, F-16 to our right, a MiG-23 to our front. Relatively what? I forget what I said. So we'll lock this up. Q2, which is declare. Hostile, MiG-23. Master arm is on. Autopilot is off. MRM override mode. And now for missiles, firing an AMRAAM is simple. You put yourself into MRM override mode. I generally fly with the override modes. They're a button. It's technically a switch. It's this switch technically that you can't hit. You're gonna want to bind 3 keys that you can access quickly. One is MRM override mode. The other is cancel, and then the other is dogfight mode. Oh, you placed it relatively east-west. Yeah, it's close enough. I know roughly how it faces. But we went MRM override mode, which is designed for firing these big AMRAAMs we got on our wings, and our symbology changed. So we've got this big circle. I don't pay too much attention to that, but it does give us some indicators. mostly what I focus on is the missile firing queue. So the biggest things to keep in mind with this is that it will calculate based off of your target's current velocity, your current velocity, and the missile's capabilities, which will change between the AM-120 Bravo and AM-120 Charlie. Yeah, Parsifal's saying that there's a option for bra calls. Yeah, you can switch it to bra. You can start out in bra and then try bullseye, so it's not too overwhelming. That's what I did. So then indicators here. So we're getting a caret. This is, and then this bracket here. So this bracket is range probability of hit. You basically in BMS do not want to fire a missile outside of that because you're never going to hit. And generally, I do not fire unless we're in range turn and run because your odds of a hit are pretty low. Range turn and run is when outside of range turn and run, the enemy is predicted to be able to just turn around and outspeed your missile, which when you're fighting something like a MiG-23, that is a very real possibility. The other information it's giving you your closing speed, so it's 990. That's my speed towards him plus his speed towards me, and he is coming like right at us. If you see the circle, there's a little arrow which is saying his aspect relative to us, so he's coming straight in at us. We're a little to the left, which is why he's not centered right on top. The other thing is that if we fire right now, it's telling us our missile will go active when we're within 13 nautical miles of the enemy. This means that so this is helpful when we get into more of the advanced stuff with BVR combat, beyond visual range combat, because we need to know what our minimum abort range is, you know, the range at which we have to start turning around and running away from the enemy so we don't get hit by their missiles. This is telling us that our minimum abort range for a MiG-23, I believe it's around 12 nautical miles, so we need to be firing this missile soon. And so we might be firing a missile just to get them to turn around and leave us alone, and maybe we'll be able to close the gap. Probably not, because these are MiG-23s, they're really fast. The other information that we've got here is we've got this F19.7. That is our F pole. That means it is our distance to the target right now. This has the M because it is our M pole, which is the distance to the missile going active. And some of this symbology is duplicated down here, which is really helpful if I'm trying to review stuff on stream, because it pops up on my displays that are really easy to see regardless of what's going on. So we're going to try to nab this bandit. So we've locked him up. We'll lock him up again so that we're in single target track. I'm going to hedge our bets by, actually, we're going to Fox 3. We're going to Fox 3, fire that missile. Our warning's off because we've got our load cat switch. We're going to now, what we're going to do is we're going to turn, try to put him right at the edge of our radar display, which this is 60 degrees out, because we want him at the edge of our radar, but we don't want to get closer to him. We want to keep him as far away from us as we can. We want to not close a distance to him, but the problem is we also want to keep our speed up so we have energy to avoid his missiles if he fires at us. This is a game of aerial chess, and I love it. It is complicated. I am not the best at it. We lost him. So, what? Going defensive? So we are defending the missile. We got a launch warning. We're going to just basically do a split S, roll 180, go down, full afterburner. I don't hear the missile, so we lost it, I think. So we're going to turn around. Our jammer is... Oh yeah, our jammer turned on. Well, it's the 4 jammer is not going on because we're in the mode where the 4 jammer won't go on. Cat and mouse at Mach 7, yep. So now we can, nearest air threat, please. We're disoriented. Draw 50.
7, nearest threat, block 05013, 19,000. Beaming, hostile print MiG-23s, 2 ships.
Declare. identified as MiG-23.
1, Magic 7, contact confirmed hostile. ID is MiG-23.
All right, he's not pointing at us. We're gonna get him locked up solidly. We're gonna get our, we're gonna take a chance to get a better firing solution on him, but if he turns our way, we're gonna fire right away. Because this is a pretty low probability shot. Fox 3. We're gonna have to guide this one all the way to lock. Why did we lose lock? Why did we lose lock? So we lost lock, which meant we lost guidance. And I don't know what that missile did, but he died, so that's good. Jammer on? No, the jammer. So the jammer in this mode, the jammer is not supposed to transmit forward at all. Well, actually, in any modes, it's not supposed to transmit forward at all after you fire an AMRAAM, because it has to guide the AMRAAM, and any jammer mode will interfere with that. How do you regain altitude after going defensive in a BVR? Typically, you die. You roll 180. You pull. You don't pull like super hard. I typically pull at like 4 to 5 Gs, so you don't destroy your speed. Because if you pull harder, the wing format on the F-16 is going to cost you a ton of energy from a hard turn. So you're gonna, you're gonna roll 180. You're gonna pull 4 or 5 Gs, and you're gonna throttle up max and dive down a bit. Typically, in this kind of an area where we're over enemy territory, you don't want to drop below 10,000 feet. But by the time you're done with that and the time you evade the missile, you should have plenty of speed to just climb right back up. And you're going to be back slow at about 300-ish knots usually. But you should do fine. Got a target in front of us. 10 nautical miles out. It's probably this guy. Jump our radar back out, and you probably noticed me absolutely panicking as my radar cursor is still inverted and it is throwing me off. Use energy to face the enemy again. Yep, you will lose energy by doing all that if you turn hard. Well, if you turn too hard. Otherwise, you're just exchanging your altitude for some energy, and your engines are putting energy in, so you should make out fairly well. The biggest thing that might cost you energy is just having the wing tanks on. If you have your wing tanks off, you'll do a lot better.
Nearest threat bullseye 280447000. Dragging hostile print
28044. That's probably not in our ball court. 280 should be off over here. We're losing altitude and we gotta stay up. There's that SA2 we're getting a little too close to. Oh, then another tip for bullseye stuff. This number down here is the bullseye of your radar cursor. It is duplicated over here, and then on the HSD you also have a bullseye indicator which points towards the bullseye and tells you the distance to bullseye and your heading. So there's all sorts of bullseye information that can be given for you. So you don't have to mentally figure out bullseye for anything except for roughly where a target is. But if you're familiar with a compass and you know where your bullseye location is, it can be pretty easy to figure that out. Nearest air threat, please. Bullseye 265, that is...
Bullseye 26564 19,000. Hostile print MiG-21s, 2-ship.
Okay. Oh, we caught our jammer switching between transmit and authorize. I think what's probably going to be a big portion of our problem is the fact that our wingman is locking us up. And our wingman's radar operates on the same frequencies as ours, so it's always going to be jamming those same frequencies to our rear. Which is why I have mode 4 as a button that I can quickly toggle on and off, because mode 4 is the same frequency as our radar. Site 270, so straight west, 57 nautical miles out.
16,000. Beaming. Hostile print MiG-21s. 2-ship.
So that's like right in front of us, but it's a ways out. And they're MiG-21s, so we can really go bully them if we can catch them. As a another tip for the Korean Theater of Operations, if a MiG-21 is on your RWR, it is an urgent situation. The MiG-21's radar is so pitifully short-ranged that if it is locking you up, it is close to you. Now, on the opposite end, a MiG-21's RWR is so awful, the pilot may not know a missile has been fired at him until he spots it. Oh my god, is that MiG-21 radar so bad. I love the MiG-21, I love flying at DCS, but it is an uphill battle fighting just about anything. Oh, and then I should probably explain IFF stuff. So TMS switch, I don't actually know which one of these is TMS. It's probably this one. The threat management switch left triggers your IFF, and you'll see down here M2, M4, M1, and it'll say scan while it's scanning, and it will pop up various symbols. So you'll see some green 4s, and then mode 2 nothing, and then mode 1 you might see some stuff. And if we do that again over here, you'll see it pop up on your HSD as well, because your IFF antennas are actually these things down here, and your aircraft knows exactly where every IFF return is from. MiG-21 in Enigma is best. I gotta get better at flying it. I am kind of awful at flying it, but it is a joy. I always like fail my landings though, because it's kind of hard to land, which is weird because it lands at a slower speed than the F-16 does. The F-16 lands, in my opinion, pretty easy. The funny red dot over the Mini-21, yes, the MiG-21 RWR, all hail it. MiG-23 off our right, there's an SA-2 over there, but I don't see its radar. Just to keep the runway start at the bottom of HUD. I think I've had the runway start way above that point, so that was probably a good thing to know. We're going to turn and face that MiG-23 we've got on radar. Or on RWR. At SA-2, we now see it on RWR, which is going to be a problem. So we'll lock up target.
Warhawk 3-1,
declare.
7, contact confirmed hostile. Warhawk 3-1,
we're going to go high and fast. And I'm going to really hope that this SA-2 doesn't kill us. So you can add more energy to your missiles by pointing them up when you shoot, but also flying yourself up when before you shoot them, which can give your missiles the extra oomph they need to take out a target. And you'll also get this small circle, which is your aiming point to help lead the missile to the target. And being perfect on that will give the missile a little bit more energy as well. Target is turning away. But we're gaining on him a little bit. Fox 3. I'm gonna crank right. we're going defensive. And as another rule, you always want to prioritize defending against an enemy missile over anything. Aside from like maybe a last minute just shot in their general direction that you plan to snip. We're going to enable mode 4 jamming. I honestly don't know how well the jammer works against enemy missiles, although I should consider the threat guide. Did you equip a TGP to see on the MFD the moment the MiG-23 pilot thinks, shit, I'm dead? I did not. Well, I have one equipped, but I didn't turn it on. Close up of the black moment, yeah. Sometimes it's funny seeing it in seeing MiG-23 or MiG-21s in TAC view afterwards, and seeing them go just fly straight at your missile, and then eventually they go, oh shit, there's a missile, and they suddenly try to turn, but it's too late. So while we're hoping this MiG-23 doesn't kill us, does anybody have any questions? Bra, 330, what 10?
Nearest threat, Bra 330, 10, 19,000. Hostile print MiG-23s, 2-ship.
Alright, so they're coming after us. We've got one AMRAAM left and 2 Sidewinders. Like the TGP for visual confirmation at long distance. Yeah, I like it too, but I've been forgetting it right now. Can online it. Narrow. Air to ground mission. I did an air to ground mission already. Like smashing with the explanations. That's good to know. A big part of why I started streaming is because I wanted to help get more people into the flight sim community. Because flight sims, they're very daunting, they're very confusing, but they don't have to be. And honestly, I think the F-16 is a very good aircraft to start with, because you don't really need that good of piloting mechanics, but you need really good you have to learn a lot of systems to know it. All right, now another thing that I'll explain is at this point I know my wing tanks are empty. Well, how do I know that? Well, I know that the F-16 carries like 7,200 pounds of fuel total, internal, not in its tanks. Is that my wingman? Wingman is shooting stuff. I didn't tell him that's okay to shoot stuff, but whatever. But anyways, at this point, we'd be fine to drop our wing tanks. We can also confirm that the tanks are empty by switching this knob to the exterior wing, and you'll see the dials all pop to just about 0, so they'd be good to drop. If you have a center tank, you can use the center tank one, and it drops the same. We are not going to drop the tanks unless we have to, because tanks are a limited object in the campaign. And as much as I'd like to give the locals some canoes, I would prefer to keep the wing tanks for myself. Because my first campaign, I did the thing that I thought you're supposed to do, which is you start engaging in combat and you drop your wing tanks and you go and you dogfight with enemies. And then I learned that I am out of wing tanks. And I had to start bringing this like 600-gallon ferry tanks that have a limited speed of Mach 1.2. And that sucked. And coward yourself. Don't make me find an Su-27 to shoot down. Don't make me get China involved in this. Your missiles are also limited, but you throw them away, so just throw the tanks. Well, I like to think of throwing the missiles at enemies as investments in keeping my airplane alive. And same thing with the tanks. I like to think of me trading the tanks for my aircraft coming back alive in one piece. Which right now I don't have the need to do that. so I might as well continue with the tanks intact. Hey, we're jamming on mode 3 and not mode 4 right now. Interesting. Probably because it's a Patriot locking us up. I glanced through the threat guide, and Falcon BMS has a wonderful threat guide. I wonder if they've got it updated in here on the knee boards. Nope, they don't. But that is pretty technical information. I'd expect it maybe on here. But this threat guide is extraordinarily useful until you learn just offhand some of the stuff. Because this gives you all of the codes for the surface-to-air missiles and SAM systems. This gives you, like, so we can look at this and we're fighting a MiG-23, MiG-23ML. Minimum abort range is 12 nautical miles. All right, that's good to know. Drop tanks on enemy base as gift. Yeah, no. Oh, if you want an air-to-ground mission, we can do... Well, we already did regular bombs. I'm not too confident in laser-guided bombs, but we could try laser-guided bombs on an empty airfield and see what happens. I have, like, never successfully dropped laser-guided bombs, so I never bothered doing the training for it either. Alright, we are going to start our descent towards Kusan, or Gunsan, or however it's pronounced. We can see it down there. See another aircraft too. Buddy spike, yes. We're always getting buddy spiked by our wingmen. He's too much of a nerd to use his data link. Don't worry, it's simple. I think it's supposed to be pretty simple. I just get anxious about trying anything that I haven't read the manual for. Favorite bomb is the SDB. The SDBs are Bay. The GBU-39 small diameter bombs, the ones that we had 8 of. They're really good because they can glide stupid distances, and you carry so many of them.
Warhawk 3, Magic 7, things are quiet right now.
You think you might just drop a steer point and drop a GB on it? So for a inertially or GPS guided bomb, you pretty much just do that. Alternatively, you can bring up your targeting pod, standby, air to ground, and you can say, why is my targeting pod not selected? Excuse me, game. I would like to select my targeting pod. What weird... Why am I in... Oh, I'm in gun mode? Why was I in gun mode? That's weird. But, what you can do for GPS bombs, and this is very confusing because my cursor is inverted, but you can find a target and you can just TMS up, and your bombs, your GPS bombs are now ready to drop on that location, and then you fly towards this steering cue you have, and you'll get this indicator, this 0.334, which tells you time until drop. If you hold down release within 6 seconds of that and hold it until the bombs drop, your bombs will drop right on target. You can also use TGP to lock a point and try to make a steer point to drop the bombs on it. Yeah, you can do that. Steer point management I consider to be a little more advanced because you don't quite need to do it, but you can do it. Mark with HMCS, but yep, you can do a... you can actually do one better than that, but we don't have any air-to-ground munitions. You can do a DTOS, which gives you a little, it'll give you a little point on your HUD that you can use and slew it around. and it'll transfer to the HMCS as well. I'm gonna have to stop explaining stuff because I need to request an approach and get ready to land.
Warhawk 3-1, contact tower for landing.
I like DTOS, honestly.
9230.
Contact tower for landing.
Warhawk 3-1.
Falcon 4-1, contact ground, switch to 27325. Falcon
West
4-2,
landing.
contact ground, switch to 27325. Warhawk 3-1, going to sound tower, continuing bound for runway 18, report on final.
Yeah, I've been using DTOS a lot in my low altitude Israeli 1980s theater that I was playing before 4.37 came out. And it was really helpful. It's probably not going to be too helpful in this because we're not really doing a lot of we're not flying around at points where we can see things. If we're flying low enough to see enemy formations, we are in a very bad position with all of the short range air defenses that are up. Air brakes out, throttle up. We're going to report on final. I hope I'm turned out nice.
Continuing bound for runway 18.
H button declutters your HUD. It can be really useful for times where like the speed tape is going right over your important indicators. You can tap H a couple more times to bring it back and bring it into different modes.
Warhawk 3-1, going to sound tower, Wayne
Gears down and locked.
at 9 knots, runway 18, clear for landing, jet gear down.
We gotta concentrate on this. We're getting blown all around. And we're down. Just hold her up. Nose with steering. Gentle on the directional pedals, though. DTOS is good for sanitized DCS scenarios or anything going on. It can be useful if you're really low and really fast, if you're just like too fast for man pads to react. Laser guided DTOS? Jesus Christ, what's even that? Maybe we'll end the mission. I think the last time I tried a laser guided bomb, I was trying to hit a Tor missile system with it because I didn't feel like using a harm, and I didn't want to use Maverick because Mavericks are scary and they don't work ever. 2 hits, MiG-23 destroyed. Nice. Wingman got 2 MiG-23s, even though we never told him to go out and kill things, so I guess that's that. Is there anything more interesting that we could hit? Let's see, ground units, support units. That won't clutter us too much. Bullseye, please, for the love of God, I need my bullseye moved. Set bullseye, confirm. Oh yeah, and show bullseye is really helpful. So this is really going to be nice for me because this is where I'm used to my bullseye being. Shoot the bomb while making your turn and keep tracking the Cybele and boom. Just proud of myself. Shout out to the Reddit post. I'm glad people found it. I got downvoted, I think, to heck and back on the Hoggett subreddit, but that's pretty normal. Anytime I've posted stuff on the IL2 subreddit, though, I get slurs thrown at me, so that's also fun. The flight sim community, the vocal people in the flight sim community aren't exactly the nicest, but I know there are a lot of very nice people in the flight sim community. Hoggett being Hoggett, yeah. The BMS community in Hoggett, though, is pretty good. The Hoggett Discord is where I've asked most of my questions. I highly recommend you join it if you're a new BMS player, because there's a very active group of people, myself included, ready to answer questions. Just understand that in a text format, most of the time, if you ask a question, we are going to just tell you to read the manual, because the best way to learn this, if my option is trying to tell you it through text or telling you to read the manual is honestly the best option for you. But in this stream, I can show you it and explain it, and that's a lot better than the manual, I think. Although there's a lot of the manual stuff I'm skipping through. The manual, I still do highly recommend that you read it no matter what. It's a very useful piece of information. The devs have gone and made it much simpler since the first time I tried. I honestly, Savior, I was honestly in your position. Back in 2018, I think it was, I tried to play Falcon BMS. I managed to take off and then land, and I didn't do like any of the navigation stuff. It was all too confusing. But then I hopped back in earlier this year, and the manuals made a bit more sense. There were more tutorials available, more people I could ask, and I was able to get into this, and I love this sim way more than I should. So what the heck is this? Airborne Battalion, SA-60. So this is one of the problems with BMS. This is a guy with a man pad. He's not here. And this is an AK-47 squad that's not here. An AT-4 squad that's not here. 120 millimeter mortar that's not here. So you can't, in BMS you can't see infantry, unfortunately, which is a little bit sad. Ooh, what's this? A tank group? Tank battalion. Let's try to do a war crime mission, as some people call it, but I call it a completely legitimate use of weaponry. So we're going to add a new package. We're going to do a air interdiction, veteran, package size of 2. We're going to get intercepted almost certainly on this, but we'll do our best effort. Take off at 23. Okay. Air interdiction. I'll slot in. Loadout. They're going to give us some laser guided bombs. I don't want to deal with laser guided bombs. It's not a war crime if it's not cluster bombs. It is cluster bombs. I'm sorry. So we're going to go air to ground. CBU 105s are sensor fused. It doesn't explain that, but you can Google it and look it up. The other alternative is the CBU 97s. CBU 97s, there are... What's annoying is that you can't put the 105s on the inner pylon. I assume it's because of the way the racks are. And this is something to kind of know about that doesn't matter in BMS. But if you get... So apparently the triple ejector racks are approved for use on F-16s, but not if you have the inner tanks on. So realistically, you're at danger of striking this inner tank, or this inner tank striking the Maverick during release. BMS, it doesn't matter, and you're just not supposed to load 3. You're only supposed to load 2, but the Maverick mission will also load 3 anyway, so it doesn't matter. But sometimes it's fun to have this many Mavericks. I think if you're using this many Mavericks, you're just a masochist, because Mavericks suck. I hate them. Okay, they have their uses, but the problem with the Mavericks is just they're very, very finicky. They don't like to lock onto things. They've got a lot of limitations that are not obvious for release. What? Don't at me. Don't at me, Hoffman. So we're going to bring the targeting pod, CBUs, and we will hit OK. Matt, 65 is left. Like, the problem I have is that they're just so finicky to lock on. They require a lot. Unlike most of the other weapons in Falcon BMS, they require a lot of experience with them just to employ them right. Whereas typically you only need 1 or 2 simulated drops to get it right with others. Except if you like your life, of course. Yeah, yeah, that's kind of part of the problem. If you're close enough to use Mavericks, you're often within range of a lot of bad enemies that you don't want to deal with. Let me recon this again and see if there's actually anything. Okay, no, they're all just tank battalions. There's no HQ battalions. So in the Korea Theater of Operations, typically you will see you'll typically see HQ battalions that are having SA-15s, and those are a pain. Blocking the Mavericks, yeah. And then bore sighting them is also a pain. Okay, so we should be loaded and ready to go. We'll save. And I think this might be our last mission for tonight because it is 11. We'll do another ramp start. Oh, we're close to our takeoff time, but we'll go. I'll try to prove to you how quick you can start up the F-16. Fun is pain. Oh, this is going to be a problem. Because we're so close to our takeoff time, it started us here. All right. Probe heat. Main power, fuel source normal. IFF normal. Lights on. Engine start 2. Air source normal. Oxygen on. Engine anti-ice auto. Please, for the love of God, start properly for me. Enjoy the intense music as I hope my start runs. Watching this needle climb. Climb for me, baby. Climb for me. %. Idle. You can scramble start an F-16 in like 2 minutes, but if you want an INS alignment, you're going to need more time than that. Starters off. Avionics power is good. On, align. On. Reset. Comms. ILS. Canopy. RWR. Power these up. Power this up. Power this up. Power this up. We're not going to have that aligned. We can align that in air. Source config cat 3. Parking brake. We're going to ignore. Ground crew. Remove EPU. Remove chocks. Okay, we beat the INS alignment, so we can go list page 0 HMCS. Can align this. Data cartridge, load, test page. Test page is all green. Why? No, test page clear. Fire control radar, bit test is going on. Four, 6. We are waiting on INS alignment. We've beat the INS alignment. Stored heading. So stored heading is what is basically happening, but it's just listed on the norm. So when this hits 1.5, we'll be aligned, which is the same as the DCS stored heading. Older versions of BMS did not have the stored heading alignment, and it took 8 minutes just to align your INS, and that sucked because the INS, this number had to climb to like 10, but now it's 1.5. Ready is up. Unlike DCS, it's just solid, it doesn't flash, and you hit nav and we're all good to go. Request taxi for departure.
Good afternoon, Mako 6. You are number 1 for departure. Taxi and hold short. Runway 1.
Ready for departure. Landing lights.
Mako 6, Tucson Tower, weight 220 at 9 knots, runway 18. You're cleared for takeoff.
What was my least favorite plane to fly? Wasn't what, 8 minutes to align with the original, or like back in like 4.33 or 4.34. I think it was 8. Hand out the RWR before I forget that. Our radar is not fired up yet. We've actually beaten our radar almost. It's going to be done with its bit test. Yep. CRM. Wingman, align. Come on. We got people doing an overhead brake. We're going to get out of here just in time, I think.
Mako 6, Tucson Tower, expedite departure incoming traffic. Mako 6, Tucson Tower, expedite departure incoming traffic.
Brakes, throttle up, RPM 100, release brakes. Thank God this thing is very easy on takeoff in BMS. We're gonna rotate at 180. Rotate. Gear up. Oh, it gets to 8.0 for alignment? Okay. Yeah, I don't remember that because that was the age of me not really playing BMS much at all.
Mako 6-1, contact departure.
Port airborne. We are so heavy. You can really feel it in the aircraft with just what your AOA is.
Departure. Depart heading 130. Resume on navigation.
Air to ground mode. We're going to power up our CBUs. We don't really have to do anything else for the, well, actually, for our CBUs, I like to go into control. First altitude, I like to set it to 1500, enter. And then we can get a little fancy. We can do a sequential drop. That's going to depend on how our target is lined up. Targeting pod, standby, air to ground. Get that set up. Air, back in nav mode. Wingman's right with us. How do you know what heading to go or what climb rate to go and airspeed climb rate? So heading is typically so what I do and what I've probably not explained, what you might have noticed me doing, is prior to takeoff or prior to taxi, I set UHF to 2 and I set steer point to 2. If you look at our HSD here, our steer point 2 is right here. So on some missions, it'll generate climb waypoints for us, especially for a heavy aircraft. And right after you take off, air traffic control will tell you your heading to go to. So you'll report airborne and it'll tell you fly heading, whatever, and you can just turn to that. Can you not set up MFDs and data cartridge? You can, but I was just setting up, making sure that we had the control set up and we had the target pod selected. Because sometimes I want the fire control radar, sometimes I want the targeting pod. But if you noticed, I didn't have to put the targeting pod on these. I just wanted to get things configured a little bit more precisely to how I need it for this mission. Because you'll also notice that my hat is here, and we don't always have the hat. We don't have the hat HTS at all. Excuse me, and I'll take a drink. And then for climb rate and altitude, so if you want to fly your planned profile very precisely, I recommend you get Weapon Delivery Planner, because Weapon Delivery Planner, maybe we'll go over that next time I stream, which will probably be in the new year. But Weapon Delivery Planner will give you a whole, in one of these blank pages, it will give you a whole list of all of your waypoints and what altitude and what times you're supposed to hit them at. Otherwise, we don't have anything to tell us that what altitude we're supposed to be at for our waypoints. But for climb rate, typically I try to climb at about 300 to 350, and you'll notice that usually I set my altitude so I have a constant-ish speed, which as you go up, your attitude that you can maintain that speed at is going to drop. So you have to keep that in mind, but you don't have to be too super precise with that anyway. We're going to fence in. And then for altitudes that you operate at normally, about 20,000 feet is just what I go to. Wouldn't you just set the desired for each waypoint as desired? Instead of AGL. For waypoints, I just leave them on the ground, typically. I don't bother putting them in the air. Yeah, in BMS, the steer points default to their on-ground elevation. I believe you can actually change that, so we can be like, I want this to be 20,000 feet. And it pops right up. If you set the altitude in the mission editor or the campaign before you take off, it leaves the waypoints on the ground. It just tells you what altitude you're supposed to be at. And I think it's generally considered bad practice to set your waypoint altitude to your flight altitude, because it can cause some real problems with weapon systems. Because like if I go right now to targeting pod, which is not timed out, it's going to be locked on a waypoint that's up in the air here, and you can actually see the targeting pod indicators there, even though it's not timed out. So I don't recommend that. But for DTOS mode, just in case anybody didn't know it, right now we've got pre... Actually, do we not have DTOS for these? Oh, no, it's Viz for these, which is odd. Pre. We're gonna just leave these as pre. Let it on ground level for the TGP. Yeah, I prefer that. It makes things a lot simpler. We're so slow and heavy. These CBUs weigh a lot. But all is quiet for now. We got some let me answer some messages and check my email. Emails, why do I have emails? Okay, just throw all these messages away. Before questions start rolling in. Well, if questions start rolling in while I'm in the middle of combat, I have the pause button. Ooh. There's another type of pause that is also really useful if you're flying with the manual, which is I forget what it was. You'll have to look up the keybind, but there's a pause that lets you operate your aircraft. I think it's actually called freeze. I think it's like shift P. Yeah, freeze. freeze pause is extraordinarily useful because you can pause everything, and the game then you can read the manual and you can be like, okay, I need to master arm on, I have to go air to ground mode, and I have to go into control, and I have to set this stuff, and it gives you all the time in the world you need to figure things out. And it is, I highly recommend it. Use it liberally, use it as much as you need to in training missions. I will also suggest that you run a training mission, and then if you've got a campaign, try to, the time will still roll in freeze pause. I don't think it's showing it here. There is one mission where you can't use freeze pause because it will cause problems, but time is still kind of going on, but everything is frozen. But I highly recommend you use this. You might find it useful, like if you're doing a follow-up to a training mission, which I suggest. So like if you learn one weapon, I suggest you then go into like a campaign and learn it there as well. So we'll resume this. But it's very, very important to, or very nice to have. Oh, I think somebody asked earlier about the ready and release on the HSD. That has, as far as I know, that's always been there, at least as since 4.34 that I've been playing. Hey, there's our targeting pod. And then if you have a stick that is capable, I highly recommend that you make use of all of the like DMS switches and everything, and the pinky button especially, because like I kind of got into a habit of using the MFD buttons because I've got them right here. But if you get it into muscle memory to use like DMS down to swap your MFD selection, and then using the pinky switch for zoom, it will make things go a lot faster. And then you can like DMS left to swap which thing you're using to display. Although I don't know how to switch radar modes using that, but it's pretty good. How important is the manual range uncage button? It is very important for air-to-air combat. So if we go into a Sidewinder here, our dogfight mode, the uncage button is what allows us to lock on with a Sidewinder. And then cursor enable allows us to drag the Sidewinder over to lock onto things that are off of our bore sight. So manual range uncage and cursor enable are two very important things to have if you ever intend to dogfight. I think uncage is used for a lot of other things as well. Hey Airshow, you're still here. How are you doing? One day you'll buy the Cougar MFDs. Yeah, I have also never done the training mission for the Sidewinders. I think it was unnecessarily complicated. Actually, what the heck is this? This is my cursor enable and it's doing something? What is that? Air-to-ground radar versus CRM. That's interesting. We're in ground mode, so that might be. What the heck? I don't even know what this is doing. But uncaged TGP for finding buddy lays. Okay, I haven't done anything with laser guided, so that is good to know. Targeting pod. Let's see if we can't see it. Targets yet. Oh boy, lining these up is going to be a pain because my button is still inverted. I think I can barely make out some guys here. But then Hoffman for the Cougars, they're pretty nice. They're not that expensive, but I've got them stuck to a display using some 3M Velcro. So my MFDs are actually displayed on a third monitor, and then I've got the buttons laid out so that they're matching the MFDs, and it is great for immersion. And as a pro tip for this, if you can't quite see your target, you can switch to TV for slightly more magnification. And it looks like our enemy is going from our right to left. Had trouble finding an answer for BMS and DC. It's just zoom. How do you bind the paddle on TWCS throttle, presuming in the track IR view? The paddle, I don't know what you're talking about with the paddle. I've got a slider axis, which is what I'm using for this. And it's a slider where I put it and it stays where it is. BMS, you're going to be a little bit more limited in what you can do. In DCS, I use my stick rotation for zoom, which I love having that option of. I just don't get that in BMS. Okay, so the target spacing is about 140, 130 meters. So we can go into control. No, wrong thing. Let me pull up a calculator. So 130 times 3, 390. So our burst spacing is 390. Enter. And if we want to do a double release, which can be helpful for taking out multiple targets at once, but we have to line up pretty well. IR point, we've got this locked on. HSD, we're going to be flying like right over an enemy SA2. Use stick rotation for zoom. Am I insane? No, I'm not. I'm perfectly sane. It's really nice because I have to take my hand off my throttle to manipulate this zoom, and sometimes you really want to see something fast. So in DCS, the way I've got it set up is that my twist axis is a slider. I told it it's a slider, and then it's following a lot. I'm worried about that SA2 that's right in front of us. We might have problems until the pot starts going. Yeah, but in DCS I've got my slider retained as well, so if I want to zoom in on something and stay zoomed in, I can just do that. So when I'm landing in DCS, I just put my slider to here and I leave it, and I don't touch the rotation. Well, Airshow, I thought you were normal, but you named all your streams Stick and Throttle Torture, so I don't think you're one to talk, mister. Yeah, master arm on. Lights are off. Our jammer is not on, which we are going to absolutely want operating. Ah, SA2! Mistakes have been made. Oh god, oh god, oh god, oh god. Jettison. Oh boy, oh boy, oh boy, oh boy. We're gonna have to wing this. Okay, okay, we dodged the first one. Our munitions are gone, so we're gonna head out. We're gonna make like a baby and head out. Keep an eye out for other launches and climb back up a bit. Easy notch, yeah. I remember when SA2s were a lot more scary. Although that was because I couldn't find the missiles most of the time. Since flying that Israeli theater of operations, where you're flying all low and have to spot out missiles very well, I've been a lot better at seeing these missiles. This probably would have gone better had our jammer decided to function, but I don't know what's going on with it. It might not be warmed up yet. The bomb, you murderer. They're not gonna go off. They're just gonna jettison and fall down, and somebody has a new fishing explosive. Well, I guess we get to make the flight of shame because we lost our munitions. Hey, wait a second. These moved in. Those were out in the last patch. These are the pit-up tubes for the ejection seat. Another day, another UXO. Exactly. If you go visit Airshow on his stream, we're gonna take this to shout out Airshow. Shout out at Airshow. Airshow is a really cool other flight sim VTuber. He is a Ukrainian Su-27. Like, I'm not even joking. He is literally an airplane VTuber. He is an airplane. His model is an Su-27. And he's really cool. If you go over to his channel and you ask him about his 200-pound bomb story, he'll give you it, and it's funny. You know what? To me, that sounds like, well, we dropped it in enemy territory, so that sounds like a not my problem. I'm surprised Wingman's keeping up with us. He might be using burner to manage. Yeah, he's got a face and everything. He's hilarious. He mostly flies DCS because his computer can handle it. I think I'm getting my computer to the point where it will handle DCS. It's been crazy how much it's taken for me to be able to stream DCS, though. And I'll just also add to this that I do love DCS and BMS. They're both phenomenal sims. In DCS, I've got the F-16, of course, because if you can fly the F-16 in BMS, you can fly it in DCS pretty much no problem. I also have the F-5, which is a beautiful, awful aircraft, and the MiG-21, which is another beautiful, awful aircraft. These 30 series cards. I've got a 30 or 80 in this PC. My limit isn't GPU, it's been normally CPU and RAM. And CPU, I was limited because of thermal throttling, because I've got a Ryzen 7 5800, and I had a really old CPU cooler from like, was it 11th gen Intel CPU, back when Intel CPUs ran really cool. So it wasn't cutting it. Now I've got a water cooler for my CPU, and temps stay about 61 from, you know, full load to idle, so it's pretty darn good. That CPU runs hot just because it's like overclocked from the factory, which really drives the temps up. And it's got a really stupidly thick heat spreader, which kills it. DH15 will take care of that. I already got my AIO installed, so I'm gonna stick with that. My last case, I would not have had room for that Noctua. i5 8600K and still chugging. Yeah. You can speed up time a bit. So this, or we'll leave the time as is, but why does Sky have a thingy around it? It shouldn't. I'll double check that, because that might actually be like an indicator for some threat. But if since we're coming to a close, if anybody has any last minute questions, comments, concerns, or what kind of missions you want to see next stream, let me know. We'll figure it out. But I'm really chugging with this reversed cursor. This is the biggest failing of BMS, is that you cannot rebind your controls. And how much for me to pull the ejection handle right now? I'd rather not. I am thinking of putting like a 50,000 point reward to just make me eject. Laser guided bomb mission next time. Okay, I'll have to study my laser guided bombs. Although I think in BMS they're actually fairly straightforward since you've got the auto lasing. And you just have to go over here and arm your laser, make sure everything's situated. Oh hey, our jammer turned on now. Authorized full jamming. That would have been really helpful with that SA2. And we probably, if we had managed our jammer correctly, we probably would have been able to drop our munitions. So earlier today I was kind of saying that the jammer seems pretty useless in the way it works, but I am kind of seeing it's okay to pretty good depending on your situation. Enter your laser code, pass in combat mode, and you're good. I wonder where you put in the laser code. Actually, if I remember correctly, isn't it somewhere in this? Is there JTAC in BMS? There is a JTAC in BMS. It's in miscellaneous and then laser. Yep. Target pod LST. Is LST the laser? Yeah, laser spot track. So if you're trying to track a friendly code, but you don't want your laser to be on that code. Laser ST time 16. Okay, so that's how long before it turns on, I guess. Oh, training to combat. Okay. Oh, cursor zero that. Oh, I should add another thing that's really useful. So this is probably the most useful thing that you will learn about the HSI here. If you put it to just TACAN, you hit the M button until it's in TACAN, and you flip this course. For Gunsan, it is you want heading of 356, and then if you go to TILS, you'll make sure that you're on that heading correctly, or you're on 75 X-ray for the TACAN, and you're on TR, which is the ground mode. This gives you a pointer towards where Gunsan is, and gives you a little indicator of what heading the runway is, so you can line up with the runway without visibility. Where can you get this game? You can buy it. So you can buy. So Falcon BMS is a modification of Falcon 4.0, and you have to have Falcon 4.0 to run Falcon BMS. You can acquire Falcon 4.0 for about $4 or $5 on Steam. Yeah, it is dirt cheap. Falcon BMS, the mod for it is completely free after you've got Falcon 4.0. And I think you just have to have Falcon 4.0 installed somewhere. And I think technically you don't even really need it installed. You just have to like have it installed and then the registry still, and you can uninstall it as long as the registry is still there or something like that. I don't know. I just have it installed on a random drive somewhere. Not the DLC. Yeah, you don't need anything else other than just base 4.0. And we're getting back to the descent and final approach. So we're gonna have to focus on stuff.
Good afternoon, Mako 61, Gunasan approach, continuing down for straight-in approach, runway 18, welcome back. Mako 61.
West landing.
Maiko 61, Unasan Tower. Continuing bound for runway 18, report on final.
Yeah, Falcon BMS, I would like to recommend it as a great trial flight sim, although it is quite complicated. Just to get it set, well, it used to be really complicated to get it set up and working. These days, I think the biggest hurdle to getting it set up and working is just the need to bind the keys in a kind of painful way, just because like what you're seeing right now with me having my radar cursor inverted and not being able to fix it right now, because you can only bind the keys outside of the game or outside of the 3D. But I'm thinking it's definitely getting to a point where if you've got a single flight stick and maybe an Xbox controller to go with it, it is a great starter flight sim, and you can go a long way with it. And it's cheap, so if you pick it up and you decide it's too complicated, you don't like it, you didn't lose much. Gear down. You can bind in real time. Let's figure that out if that works. Do I still have alternate launcher up? I do not, but let's find out. You can bind in I don't believe that. I don't believe that, man. You guys can't see what I'm doing, but I'm going in and I'm cursor X, cursor Y. Yeah, invert, save. BMS. Yeah, no, wait. Actually, yeah, that worked. Wow. Well then. Okay, our gear's down and locked. We got a report on final. Hey, excuse me while I reconfigure my aircraft controls on landing approach.
Maiko 61,
Gears down and locked.
230 at 10 knots. Runway 18,
We're
clear for
coming in a
landing.
little
Jet gear
fast,
down.
but we're also low. Oh, Savior. Oops, what did you do? This auto mod is getting zealous with words. The other thing that I like with BMS as a starter sim is that you don't really need rudder at all. I only use rudder in dogfighting. Well, dogfighting and keeping your aircraft on the runway are the only times I use rudder. Oh, he spammed question marks for binding while actively in game. Okay. I gotta adjust that because I don't really care about some of the stuff that happens, but I'm using a preset bot to mod chat. Streamlabs did you dirty, yeah.
Maiko 61, contact ground. Switch to 273525.
All right, we're gonna end this mission. You like most for landing? Yeah, the F-16, honestly, I would say it's probably one of the tougher aircraft to land, at least from what I've seen. But if you do exactly what it tells you, the aircraft will tell you exactly what you need to do to land. And that makes it pretty easy. All right, we're going to switch over to the talking screen. And I didn't actually switch over to the talking screen. Oh, shoot, this talking screen that I never updated to have a chat box. Oops. That music there. Get the other music paused. I'm gonna have this up and talk while I save and exit Falcon BMS. I'm happy. Yeah, being able to bind and get that, it's so nice because there's, especially when you're getting your rebinds, like once you get all the binds set, it doesn't really matter all that much, but it's such a pain before that. Why is this my window that's up here? This should be my window up here. Who is online that we're gonna raid? Oh yeah, Kirima is doing a big stream. He's doing an endurance stream, so I'm gonna raid my friend Kirima XL. He's playing Cyberpunk. Change of pace, but I hope you'll all at least stop by to say hello. Our raid message. Let me actually get the raid started. Kirima. Start raid. Our raid message is going to be this, and the emotes should all be follower emotes, I think. Hey Jenny, thank you for the follow. We are just wrapping up and raiding. I hope you all had a great day. I look forward to doing some more instructions with Falcon BMS, especially as more people are coming in. Thank you. Sorry for the question spam. This is literally a stream where I ask you to ask questions, and I literally have another message on screen at all times that says, if you have any questions, do not hesitate to ask. So you do not have to apologize for asking questions. I am here to try to get more people into the flight sim community, so answering them helps, answering questions helps that, and I am happy to help. If my ADHD brain is making sense. I'm just glad that my answering of questions has been intelligible, because I'm kind of tired and ADHD brain go burr. But thank you all for watching. We're gonna raid now. See you later.